Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto became Ulquiorra after the leaf betrayed him. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by BRAGO 12716 and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter 1. Dreams or Memories. Stone walls were all around Orham, nothing but cold stone walls and personality from her only actual contact. Her only contact, a stone-cold and emotionless robot named Ulquiorra Cypher, and she hated how he stared at her when he thought she wasn't looking. It was like she was just a difficult puzzle to him, a puzzle he would never understand but was trying to, or so it seemed. She hated that stare. It wasn't who was staring at her that was her problem, it was that look, a look that anyone could have. Her friends, well, former friends, thinking she was a freak with her food was bad enough, but having other people staring at her was just wrong. The only comfort Orham found was in her drawings and dreams. She somehow talked Ulquiorra into giving her some drawing material so she could draw. She spun some tale about how if Aizen wanted her sane when she was healing his soldiers, she would need something to occupy her time other than doing nothing. Otherwise she would become so insane that she might just end up rejecting their entire existence if what Aizen said about her rejecting fate is true. The tale did work in getting her drawing material, so she went to work drawing in the notebook about the dreams she had been having. Orham's dreams started out from the point of view of a little girl, a princess or heiress of a clan in a village of some type or other, so that was the first drawing. Her next was of a childhood practicing a type of kung fu she never saw before. She wasn't really that knowledgeable about kung fu, but she knew enough karate to know the different types. There were dreams about an academy that trained children like her to be ninjas, actual living ninjas, with stuff they call jutsu and such. Then the dreams were how a boy saved her, the heiress, from bullies and got beat up himself instead, and from then on, the dreams were all about him. There were a few times that she would have dreams about her team consisting of a dog-loving boy and a bug-loving boy and an illusion mistress. The dreams though would still eventually go to the boy with blonde hair, whisker marks, orange jumpsuit, and apparently the boy she stalked. Then the dreams would eventually end with him in a jail cell and her at his bars confessing to him and him confessing that he only went after another girl because she was an heiress and too good for him. Then somehow, she would end up in the cell with him, but they were both handcuffed away from each other, so neither could be of any comfort except for their words, but no touch made it unbearable. Then the dreams started over with her childhood again, that was it, all her dreams were vivid as if a long-lost memory, but she just chalked it up to overactive imagination. Now that she had something to draw on and a lot of free time though, she thought that now would be a good time to try and understand her dreams. So that's what she did all day when Ulquiorra wasn't in her room to bring her meals to her, she drew the dreams that she had in as much detail as she could. Eventually it got to the time Orham actually looked forward to, Ulquiorra's visit to bring her some food, if only to have some interaction with somebody. She quickly closed up her drawing notebook and hid it under her pillow, and not 10 seconds later did Ulquiorra finally come in with her food, and after being here for 2 weeks, you'd think he learned not to barge into a girl's room. "Here is your food, woman, eat," Ulquiorra ordered in his standard emotionless way, and not even bothering to look at her this time, which she thought was way worse. "You could at least knock on a lady's door before entering her room. I know I'm a prisoner, but you could at least act civil," she commented. "A pointless notion that has no real meaning. Now eat before I come back or I'll shove it down your throat," he ordered before turning and leaving like he came in, silent. At least now she could get back to drawing, after she ate of course, even if she hated the food she didn't feel like having him shove the food down her throat. Forcing her down, standing over her and forcing her mouth open, forcing the food down her throat, making her choke and gag, and when he took his hand away a long string of saliva trailing from her mouth. She had to forcibly shake her head to rid herself of those thoughts, as she also had to shift in her chair from discomfort. "I can't believe I just thought that, I'll just eat and take a short nap, I need to remember some details about the part I'm stuck on anyways, and it's coming up," she said before eating her bland food and laying down for a short nap. That was where it got really interesting. She normally would be on an event called the Chunin exams, where she would get brutally pounded on by her apparent cousin that held resentment towards the main branch of their clan. This time around though, she began where her usual dream cycle ends, but this time more happened, and Anbu, their special ops, with purple hair and a cat mask, came in and unlocked their cuffs and allowed them to comfort each other. The Anbu whispered to them, "I managed to get you 1 hour uninterrupted, so the comfort needs to be quick you too." With that she was gone and what followed was an hour of nothing but love-making, hot, sweaty, and passionate love-making between the two. She thought the dream would end there, but instead it kept going until the Anbu came back and found them in each other's arms. "I hope you two had fun, and I'm sorry Naruto, Hinata, but I couldn't get you out of this, that bitch of a Hokage won't listen to anything." Hurry up and get back into position so I can put you both back in your handcuffs, and again I'm sorry. It's okay Nico-chan, I know you would do more if you could, Naruto said as he got back into position. Nico was one of the Anbu that watched over him as a child, but was never there for his beatings because the third Hokage always had them do something else when it occurred. The only one who really cared though was Nico, she was just like a mother to him, so it was understandable that he would see her as such. She would tuck him in every night she could when he was smaller and lived alone, and even was there when he had a nightmare a few times, she was a true mother. Don't call me that Naruto, I don't deserve that title anymore, since I can't even protect you both from what's to come, no matter how wrong it is, Nico said and looked as if she was about to cry. Don't worry Ka-chan, you don't have to feel guilty, you just live on for the both of us okay, Naruto reassured her, but that didn't stop the tears. He's right Nico-chan, you just have to live on, we both know what's going to happen, so don't worry about us and just live, Hinata said as she too was on the verge of crying a little, but held back for Naruto's sake. Nico finally recomposed herself after a minute of pulling herself back together and finished putting Hinata's cuffs back on and gave her adoptive son a quick hug before leaving. This was the moment that Orham woke up and gasped at such a dream, there was a cold sweat all over her and her heart was racing. She immediately grabbed her drawing notebook and went to work drawing this new Nico-chan in as much detail as she could remember. A new piece of the puzzle that was the dreams mean that maybe she was finally gaining access to the rest of her dream self's life. She immediately blushed at the other part of the dream where the boy she liked and herself done the deed and at 13 years old made it seem so dirty. Woman, why is your face red like that? She heard Ulquiorra by her door and nearly jumped all the way to the ceiling, it scared her so bad. If you have fallen ill then heal yourself, I don't need you getting yourself sick under my care. I'm not sick, you just caught me up in an embarrassing moment, I just had a perverted dream and I thought about it when you walked in and surprised me, causing me to have a blush on my cheeks. I see how it would look like a fever to you, but I'm not sick, you just caught me at a bad time, Orham protested as she waved her hands all over the place. She quickly hid her drawing notebook so none of her drawings were discovered and the only thing that Ulquiorra saw was a small flash of a familiar shade of purple, but quickly put it out of his thoughts. I see you've eaten your food without me forcing you to, maybe you are ill since you didn't put up a fight, or you are finally accepting that you will never leave here, Ulquiorra commented. I was just hungry to the point of not wanting to protest, but did you have to watch me sleep while I was dreaming a good dream, because you didn't have to, she replied back. No, but I was ordered to inform you that your former friends have entered Hueco Mundo and seem to be heading for Las Noches, presumably to rescue you, he informed. That's not right, I remember writing that I was a traitor and have been since our trip to Soul Society, they shouldn't be here, Orham informed. I remember informing you that you could say goodbye to only one person, yet you write a letter to your friends, why disobey, Ulquiorra dangerously questioned. I only wrote a letter to Ranjiku telling her of my being a traitor, if she chose to share the information with others is none of my concern, she defiantly huffed and looked away. Very smart strategy, not disobeying my orders because you technically did say goodbye to one person and relied on that person to relay any information in that letter to everyone else. Perhaps you do have a brain in there after all, but I still don't like that it led to your friend's infiltration, he stated firmly. Wait, infiltration, that gives me an idea she thought before speaking then let me offer a new thought to the rest of you, there are all kinds of Zanpakuto out there, what if one can change Ryatsu and appearance? One could have already infiltrated our ranks and tricked you all, I know you only see the others as comrades at best, but even comrades need some level of trust. Ulquiorra seemed to be in thought about what she said before speaking, your proposal does have a good point, so I shall go bring this up to Aizen. Wait, how do I know the you that will return will really be you though, Orham asked smartly and to be honest, looked a little smug at thinking something they didn't. Fine, to speed this along you may ask one question about my time alive that I will answer truthfully and honestly, you have my word as an Espada, he stated. Orham paused and thought until a good question to find out some clues and maybe see some emotion from her guard came to mind. What was the full name of your first love when you were alive? She knew she had him with that, there was no way the Espada was going to tell her that, he'd say it was trivial. Her name was Hinata Hyuga, Orham froze at Ulquiorra's words, how did he know that name? There was only one explanation, he was her Naruto-kun, but how can that be if it was just a dream, or was it? Now if we are done with this debate, I'll be going to see Aizen about your idea, which still shocking that you came up with it, just as he was about to leave he heard a name that made him freeze. Naruto-kun, was what she said, she stood there shaking as she watched him freeze, and she was sure that if she could see his face, it would be a face of actual shock. To her slight disappointment, when he turned around it was the same emotionless face she always saw, the only difference, it had a slight rage to the face. How do you know that name? I gave you the name Hinata, not Naruto, and I have told no one of that or any other name, Ulquiorra said. I've been dreaming about Hinata's life. It starts with childhood and ends only recently, like before you came in, with your Nico Kachan coming in and letting the two of you have a special intimate moment before coming back and putting cuffs back on us. I don't know why I keep having these dreams, but they are always from Hinata's point of view, and that's what I always draw in the notebook you got for me. Orham rushed over and got her notebook from under her pillow and handed it to him, and when he did he was amazed at what he saw. Most of Hinata's life, everything from childhood until that night in the cell with his Nico Kachan, and all the events they shared together and her own story as well, were all depicted as drawings. I assume that was as far as you got that night and don't remember anything else, Ulquiorra guessed and looked up to see her nod nervously. I still don't know why I'm dreaming about this Hinata's life, do you have the answer? She asked in a pleading tone that reminded him of Hinata herself. I have a theory, you have been to Soul Society so you know that after a time a soul will be reborn into the reincarnation cycle don't you, he asked and saw her nod. My theory is that you were at one time the Hinata-chan that I once knew, but since then have been in the cycle of reincarnation. I on the other hand have been here in Hueco Mundo all this time, and therefore I have not been reincarnated. Then can you tell me how we died? I've never gotten that far in my dreams and would like to know, just to ease my mind a little, Orham asked on the verge of tears. Very well then, but after this you will not be the same by any means, it all started the day after we shared our intimate moment, Ulquiorra started before reaching out and put his hand on top of her head. Flashback. Naruto and Hinata were talking to each other, they wished they could hold onto each other, but this was the best they could do. They then heard a sound, and in came the fifth Hokage herself, Tsunade Senju looking smug, and they then knew it was time for sentencing. You two look better than expected, I don't know why or how, but it won't matter once you hear the news. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, Hinata Hyuga, you two are to be the key figures in bringing peace to the ninja world, Tsunade stated smugly. What are you talking about old hag, Naruto spat out only to be greeted with a fist to the jaw courtesy of the Hokage. Show some respect you stupid gaki, as I was saying, you two are going to be key figures in bringing peace to the ninja world. For Naruto, I assume you know your true heritages, and for that we are going to announce to the world that you are the son of the Yellow Flash, she stated. You know that if you do that then I would rain down upon you with war, and nothing you do can change that, Hinata yelled out, not really caring who Naruto's parents were, he was still Naruto. Unless we give them your head and tell them that the legacy of the Yellow Flash is dead and over with, in return we obtain a lasting peace with them. As for your Uzumaki heritage, we will collect as much sperm from you as we can and send it as well as Zabuza Mamachi's sword to Kiri and use them to brochure an alliance with them as well. They would be so grateful to us for giving them Uzumaki DNA and Zabuza's sword back that they wouldn't even question where we got it. Also, to ensure his loyalty to Kano is forever constant, we will give Sasuke the honor of killing you and giving him the Manjikyu Sharingan so he can kill his brother Itachi, Tsunade explained. You dare to betray a fellow Uzumaki for a peace that won't last, you never understood anything about an Uzumaki did you, we never go back on our word and never betray a comrade, Naruto yelled. Good thing I never claimed to be in Uzumaki, being one means death and doesn't get you anywhere but a death sentence. Now on to Hinata's sentence, your egg shall be extracted and given to Kumo so they can have the Byakugan and become allies with them as well. After all the materials from you both have been obtained, Sasuke will kill Naruto and Neji will kill Hinata. Tsunade informed. What about Suna and Yuki, you know that they won't just sit back and watch me die or stand down once I'm dead, not to mention all the other Jinchuriki's tailed beasts will rampage in them until asked what's wrong. Then they'll know and even if not met, I know for a fact that Jinchuriki protect their own, he stated in defiance. Suna won't do a thing because even as we speak their council has captured and restrained their Jinchuriki and made sure he's in a more docile state. Yuki doesn't stand a chance against our military might and they know it, even with their more advanced machinery we'd still win and they know this and won't risk it. As for the other Jinchuriki, not a single one will do anything unless they want to forever be hunted down as the attack dogs they are, and that is all they are, attack dogs. Now take them away so their sperm and eggs can be harvested and make sure to make it painful for them both as they are traitors, Tsunade ordered. She received a resounding yes ma'am from the Anbu with her and they grabbed the prisoners harshly and made sure to treat them as if they were taking out the trash. Remember this Tsunade, I'll have my vengeance, I'll be sure to kill you and everyone who has betrayed me and Hinata, I'll give you to the Kyuubi and make sure he chews through your bones, Naruto yelled as they began to drag him off. Wait, you and I both know that once you die, so does the Kyuubi's consciousness, his chakra will linger here and there, but once you go, so does he thanks to the seal used on you. Now stop acting so high and mighty, you both will die, now take him away, she ordered, and they were off for the most painful experience they ever felt. After the harvest, Executioner's Station. Naruto and Hinata stood before everyone as the entire village gathered to see the execution of two traitors, they wore nothing but thin white hospital gowns. The Hyuga came out to shame Hinata and mock her about her weakness and love for a demon that was just her being brainwashed because of her weakness. Everyone else came to see Naruto and let him know that son of the fourth or not, protecting them or not, he was still just a demon that killed his father and mother. Everything was standard for an execution of traitors to the village until the rest of their class came for their share of blood. I knew you were a demon, Naruto. Ka-san told me you killed your own parents on the night of your birth. If that isn't proof, then what is? Kiba said. This was inevitable, Naruto. Why? Because you are a demon and demons always get what they deserve, Shino explained stoically. To think that I shared food with a demon, you make me sick, Naruto. I'll never eat when thinking of you again, Choji spat before turning away. I trusted you, Naruto, but just turned out to be another disappointment. You never had any youth, you only had bloodshed and unyouthfully demonic thoughts on the brain, Lee exclaimed in tears. What a drag, you going to die, so I have nothing to say to a demon so troublesome, Shikamaru said with the same lazy expression as always. I thought you could sever fate, Naruto, forge your own path, but this proves to me that fate is absolute. Your victory over me was nothing more than a fluke, and you're now getting what fate has deemed befits a demon like you, Neji spoke with a glare. Naruto took everything and didn't say anything at all to anyone. Looking over at Hinata, he saw that she was getting a similar treatment from the girls of the class. You pathetic foolish bitch, you've fallen in love with a demon and all you can think of is the demon, just die, Tenten said. What did you expect from a demon's whore? She probably services him every chance she gets, probably wishes she could have a demon cock right now, Ino commented. Yeah, probably would love to be gang-banged by hundreds of her demon lover, what a slut, Shizune said. He could do it too, use shadow clones and keep her as nothing but a demon's plaything, just like she wants. Let's leave the slut to think on her thoughts, Sakura suggested, and they all agreed and left. The guys of the group that came up to them left as well and only left Naruto and Hinata there to get stared at as time for their execution was drawing near. Hey, Naruto-kun, we'll stay together in the next life, won't we? Hinata asked quietly from where she was at next to him a few feet away. Of course, we'll find each other one way or another, no matter how long it takes or how far we'll have to travel, we'll find each other, Naruto reassured her with a huge smile that made her heart flutter. Yeah, we'll find each other, I promise you, Naruto-kun, some way my reincarnation will find you and love you just as much as I do now, she promised on the brink of tears. Forever, Hinata-chan, that's how long I'll wait for you, even if I forget you, I'll still wait for you until I find you, he promised. Now was the time. Tsunade came out in front of the two, looking at the crowd. She inwardly and outwardly smirked, thinking about what's to come. We will now be holding the live executions of the traitorous whore Hinata, former member of the Hyuga clan, and the Kyuubi demon brat and son of the fourth Hokage, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. This was met with loud cheers from the crowd and even some disrobing at the joyous news of the day, but that wasn't the only news for Naruto and Hinata. On the stage they were set up on came Neji and Sasuke, both looking stoic, but you could tell they were smug about killing their assignment. Ready to die, loser, Sasuke asked rhetorically when he got in front of Naruto. Ready or not, you will die, Hinata, you will die here and be forever named the whore of the Kyuubi demon, Neji stated stoically. Now, to prolong today's entertainment, our executioners will be killing them one at a time, starting with the demon's whore, Tsunade announced loudly as the crowd began to cheer. No, don't, just kill us together, don't separate us, please, Hinata yelled as the tears poured out of her eyes and down her cheeks. No, we want to watch the moment he despairs as he watches you die, Sasuke said before Neji ended her with a well-placed gentle fist to Hinata's heart. No, Naruto yelled as he watched the light leave her beautiful lavender eyes as the tears streamed down his face. It was a steady stream that seemed to never end, and it only made it that much worse that he wasn't there to meet her right when it happened. But bye, Naruto, I would say that it's been fun, but what would a demon crybaby like you know about fun, Sasuke taunted before shoving a handful of Chidori straight into Naruto's chest, just below his throat. Naruto got the last laugh though as before he died he said, you're still weaker than Itachi, and with that, Naruto died. Naruto renounced Sasuke as his best friend some time ago, but why did Kano not think that he would do something like this? Easily, they thought that he would never go back on a friendship, but they never listened because instead they didn't realize that their actions betrayed him and in return forced him to do the last thing anyone expected. He went back on his word and renounced a friendship and in return Sasuke got nothing but a bloody hand and a pleased crowd for slaying a demon, not a fair trade at all is it? So for the first time in the history of the ninja world, and Uzumaki went. Flashback end. When Ulquiorra removed his hand, Orham was shaking and he could see her sweating profusely and her eyes rolled to the back of her head. As he was about to speak he saw her fail to the ground, buckling under the weight of her knees and falling backwards after that. He used Sunito to catch her before she was fully on the ground. Orham, are you alright? He asked. She opened her eyes and revealed them to be a pale, pupilless lavender that seemed to look right into his soul. They carried a carrying weight to them that he hadn't seen in centuries. Naruto-kin, was all she said before leaning up and giving him a quick kiss on the lips. I remember everything. Chapter 2. Confrontation. You remember everything, what do you mean by that? Ulquiorra asked as he helped Orham to stand up, rather slowly, but they got there. I remember everything Naruto-kun, I remember things that I didn't dream, and even things that I never would have imagined doing as Orham, like taking a life. I, as Hinata Hyuga, took a life on a mission, but Orham Inoue never did dream about taking a life, never even imagined she could, Orham stated now on the brink of tears. Ulquiorra grabbed onto her shoulders so all her focus was on him. Listen to me Hinata-chan, that was when we were both ninja on missions, we knew what was required of us, and still we did those things not because we wanted to, but because it was kill or be killed. I don't think I can be called Hinata anymore, so feel free to call me Orham instead, okay, she stated. Very well, but since Naruto is dead and I now stand in his place, I'll go by Ulquiorra as well, he informed. That's alright, wait, how do I have the Byakugan, and why isn't everything the way it usually is whenever it's activated, Orham asked. More than likely this is a new type of Byakugan that works with Reiatsu instead of chakra like back in the elemental nations, what can you see with this one, Ulquiorra asked. Well, let me see, she then focused her Reiatsu instead of chakra and found that she could see all the different colors of Reiatsu, not just the normal bland color of chakra. She looked all around her room in wonder, but she mistakenly looked down at the wrong moment because then she saw something that caused her to do her famous atomic blush. Ulquiorra looked at her and then where she was looking and figured out the rest from there. Ahem, now, are there any questions that you have for me? I'll answer anything I can, if I can. Well yes actually there is, what happened to the Kyuubi? I didn't see him in you, once you died, so did he right, so what happened to him? Orham asked. Yes, he did, once we came to this new world where we were the first ever Vasto Lord ranker, he decided he wanted to be able to fly, so he turned himself into a bat and gave himself the name Murcielago. He still has 9 tails though, but now he is a 9-tailed bat and not a fox, he informed looked emotionless, but a little annoyed about something. Well, at least now you and he are complete partners now, why did he want to be able to fly though, she asked with a sweat drop. When I asked his reasoning he just said he never had before and that's all I needed to know, Ulquiorra simply stated. Well, what do you want to do now that we've found each other? I've never reunited with a lost love before, Orham stated nervously. Neither have I, but I do know one thing that I would like to do to you at this very moment, he stated as he leaned in and gave her a passionate kiss on the lips. Her eyes widened in shock for only a moment before she returned at full force with just as much passion. His hands placed themselves on her hips while her hands wrapped themselves around his neck, interlocking behind his head. They stayed kissing that way for a few more minutes before Orham made a move to enter her tongue into Ulquiorra's mouth. Even if the action was a welcome surprise for him, he quickly accepted and soon started to ask the same thing from her, to which she accepted immediately. Things only escalated from there, soon his hand started to travel downwards towards her nice and plump butt and she increased the kiss so that he knew it was an okay action to take. He took that as a sign to start the next stage of what he was about to do, picking her up and having her legs wrapped around his waist, he walked over to the bed. Outside Ulquiorra's room that moment. Grimjo Jijurjakas was a very annoying Espada, even among all the other individuals, but he wasn't as vulgar as Noitrugilga, and he was glad for that. Despite what everyone thinks though, he was not stupid, far from it, and one of the reasons everyone else kept him at arm's length is because they knew it too. One thing that bothered Grimjo more than anything though, being an errand boy to some pompous ass that thinks he's God or something, that shit really got on his nerves. To make matters worse, he was ordered to do this because Ulquiorra, the emotionless emo prick, hasn't reported back to Aizen since he was ordered to tell the girl about her former friends. That was so out of character for Ulquiorra to do that. Grimjo knew something was up, that's why he did what was asked without making a fuss, this time. When he got close to the woman's door though, his advanced cat-like ears started to pick up something that he knew the sound of, but knew that it couldn't be the woman and an ranker, they all hated humans. Maybe the woman was playing with herself thinking of that orange-haired bastard, or maybe thinking of one of her other friends, who cares. He knew that he would just get to listen to a girl playing with herself, but wasn't expecting what he heard. No Ulquiorra-kun, I'm not ready for anal, not yet anyways, the other hole, Grimjo heard the girl Orham moan out in pleasure. This was perfect, not only was the girl finger banging herself, she was doing it while thinking of that emotionless bastard doing it to her anal style as well. Wait until he tells the guy, maybe this will get a reaction out of that bat bastard. Very well Haim, I'll do as you wish, just know that next time, it will be there instead. He then heard that emotionless voice speak and felt his blood run cold. That emotionless bastard of an Espada was actually banging that girl and seemed to be enjoying it too because Grimjo could have sworn that he heard a smirk in there somewhere. Grimjo thought about going back and reporting to Aizen about this, but then figured that if he was going to die as the messenger, he was going to enjoy his last moment by listening in on the action in the room. An hour in and he was actually impressed with the human girl's stamina, either that or Bat Bastard was going to slow to actually please her. Judging by the moans and grunts in the room however, that was immediately tossed out the window. Then something amazing happened, one by one more of the Espada started to show up, first was Neutra, then Tyr Haribal the third Espada, and then the rest came in one big group when they got word via Mila Rose that something was up. How Haribal got roped into staying, nobody knew and nobody wanted to risk death to find out, so they didn't ask for self-preservation. Everyone else staying wasn't really a shocker to Grimjo though, despite what everyone else thinks, they all knew one thing, Ulquiorra was a strange guy. Most of them probably thought that he was gay, since he ignored some of the female rankers' advances towards him, and there were a lot. Then Aizen just had to come into the picture, while walking up to them he casually says, "Why is everyone outside Orham's room?" All at once, an amazing thing happened, annoying to Aizen, amazing that he didn't slaughter all of them to Grimjo. All the ranker turned around and shushed Aizen, the Aizen, whom they all agreed to serve as soldiers in his army, they shushed Aizen. Aizen was not in a good mood, first Ulquiorra didn't report Orham's reaction to her former friends being here like he was supposed to, then Grimjo didn't report. Now he finds all of his Espada outside her door, only to get shushed by all of them, him, Aizen, soon-to-be god got shushed by his own pawns. He thought about raising his Riatsu and scaring them, he knew that would scare them into regretting what they just did, but when he was contemplating this action, his ears picked up on something he didn't expect. After all his careful planning, after all his countermeasures to everything the Shinigami could possibly come up with, he never expected he'd have to forbid one of his most loyal to stay away from a human girl. Having to do so made him angry for not calculating this as part of his plans, but he knew Ulquiorra and he knew he would obey him in whatever he ordered to do. "I won't punish you all because I too find this entertaining and I can see where it was easy to lose yourselves, but don't let it happen again. Grimjo, when Ulquiorra gets done in there, tell him to come directly to the throne room," Aizen said quietly, didn't want to be shushed again. What he got in return was not what he expected them to say yes Aizen-sama or something like that, not a thumb up from everyone. He sighed and left to get rid of the headache that he felt coming why he ended up deciding to use hollows for his allies he would never understand. Maybe it would have been easier to trust the Quincy's, but who knew where that might lead him, and he didn't like uncertainty. They all have now been standing there, listening in on Ulquiorra and Orham banging each other for 5 hours now, 6 for Grimjo, but 5 for the rest. After the 5.5-hour mark though, the noises on the other side of the door stopped and they could no longer hear them anymore, which put Neutra in a bad mood. After waiting another 30 minutes, Grimjo knocked on the door and yelled out, "Hey Bat Bastard, Aizen wants to see you and the girl." The door to the room opened and out came Ulquiorra and Orham, as if they didn't just have sex for 6 freaking hours. "I was discussing with a woman about an idea that came to her regarding possible infiltration that we had not yet thought of," Ulquiorra stated as emotionless as ever. "Really, what is this idea that she had and why were you discussing it for so long?" Grimjo said with a huge knowing grin that Ulquiorra obviously missed. "You will find out after I speak with Aizen-sama about it as to why we were discussing things so long. I wanted to be sure that she wasn't just saying anything to get a pointless reaction out of me," the bat stated. "Yeah, if Aizen-sama did have this problem, it would be a serious hindrance to his plans, but I think he should at least know about the thought and then see what he wants to do about it," Orham stated, not opening her eyes. How can they act so naturally calm about just having sex and then going to see Aizen about something they just thought up? I hate these two now more than ever, Grimjo thought. Outside the throne room. Orham was nervous, mainly because she had a bad feeling about what was going to happen. She knew that all the Espada were in Aizen's throne room, but didn't know why. She silently signaled Ulquiorra about it using hand signals from her time as hinata and hoped that he remembered. He did and told her not to worry, she will be protected. That was all she needed to hear, or rather see, to put her mind at rest and not worry. "Time to come in you two," Grimjo stated as he opened the door after going in to speak with Aizen and the other Espada alone for a bit. That was when they knew something was up. When they entered, with Orham still having her eyes closed, everyone had on a serious face, except for Jin and Aizen. They were nothing but smiles, as per usual. "Ulquiorra, Grimjo tells me that you had a security concern, but didn't say what it was because you wanted to bring it to my attention. What is it?" Aizen asked. "Aizen-sama, the woman has brought up a valid suggestion that I believe is worth looking into, and if you have already done so, that is fine as well, I just wanted to bring it to your attention." The woman thought that with so many different types of Zanpakuto, there could be one that disguises Riatsu and changes appearances. This would give the Shinigami availability to infiltrate and disrupt your plans, Ulquiorra explained flawlessly without emotion. I haven't considered that, I will have Sailaporo look into that, but security is not the reason I have called you here today, Ulquiorra, Orham, Aizen said as he eyed them both with a look they never saw before. You both participated in an activity that is not against the rules, but participating in such a thing draws focus away from what matters, your loyalty to me. I do not blame the Orham Inoue, women do have certain urges and at times need to quell those urges. I am disappointed in you though, Ulquiorra, as I never thought I would have to do this, but I order you to never have contact with Orham again. I can't guarantee that it won't happen if you are her guard, so I must forbid you from having contact with her if it is not absolutely necessary. All was quiet for about a moment before they heard the voice of Ulquiorra stated, I apologize Aizen-sama, and would have continued if Aizen didn't start at the pause. I's alright Ulquiorra, but make sure it doesn't happen again, he said, but was surprised when Ulquiorra looked up with defiance in his eyes. You should have let me finish Aizen-sama, as I was saying, I apologize, but if you want me to forsake Orham, then you can go to hell and take your entire army of Arankor with you, Ulquiorra stated bluntly. The way he said the Sama though was when the others knew something was about to go down, they just didn't think he would go that far for a human girl. As for Aizen himself, he looked shocked beyond all hell, Ulquiorra, his most trusted and loyal Espada, just told him to go to hell if he ordered him to forsake the girl, what just happened? He recovered enough to make a statement though, I don't think you understand what I just ordered you to do, it was not a request. I know it was an order, but given it orders me to forsake Orham, I've decided to ignore it and any order where I must be apart from her, he shot back. Don't make me have to kill you for your betrayal, because that is what you are doing if you go against my orders, betraying me, Aizen stated more serious than he's gotten in years. Then it is a betrayal you'll have to get over, because I'm not leaving Orham's side, not now and not ever, Ulquiorra said emotionlessly, but there was a fire in his eyes none of the Espada have ever seen in him before. Aizen stood up and just as he was about to draw his Zanpakuto, he stopped because Ulquiorra was quicker and he seemingly stabbed at nothing with his Zanpakuto. In reality though, he could see Aizen all along, standing in a corner waiting to strike if need be, the Aizen on the throne right now was an illusion created with his Kyoka Sujetsu. You are mistaken if you think that I am under your Zanpakuto's power, I have not been under the influence of your Zanpakuto since I first started working for you, Ulquiorra stated. The illusion shattered just then, and everyone saw that Aizen had been stabbed in the shoulder and now had blood leaking from the wound. How are you not under my perfect hypnosis? I know I put every single member of the Espada under it when you all first joined, Aizen painfully said. You put the eyes I had at the time under the influence, with my instant regeneration ability, I can get rid of the old ones and regenerate new ones that are not influenced by your power, he informed. I've never seen it so I knew where you were and where everyone was staring at, so I knew I could play the part, but even if you did put me under the influence, it wouldn't have mattered, Orham informed cryptically. What do you mean by that Pet-chan? Neutra asked before thinking and found that he was on the end of a glare from Ulquiorra. Yes, he still had an emotionless face on, but the look in his eyes said it was a glare. That's a secret, haha, she said with a giggle from the antics of her boyfriend, they hadn't really talked about it, but what else would you label them as? Now, do not attempt to separate us again, if you do, I guarantee that you will not like the outcome, Ulquiorra stated before turning on his heel and leaving with a smiling Orham in tow. That was more fun than I thought it would be, but I'm still embarrassed about how they listened in on a private moment, Orham stated as they were walking back to her room. Then a strange thing happened, they walked right past it and kept going, Ulquiorra-kun, you know we just passed by my room you know. I know, but since we are together again, I thought it would only be fair that you see my room, it's not really far from yours actually, but still worlds apart, he informed while she blushed about what they might do once they get there. Once there, he unlocked the door and stepped inside and she followed suit while he closed the door and she saw how the room looked. It was all so white, everything was white except for the books on a bookshelf in the corner of the room. There was a bed that looked so comfy and had fluffy pillows on it and then there was a closet not far from that, it looked to be a walk-in closet too. The room was 3 times the size of hers with tables and sofas and chairs all around the room, to be honest though, it looked quite bland, but she didn't know what she was expecting when he was all but emotionless now. I know this isn't what you were expecting to see in my room, but I was turned into the Arankor of despair for a reason, had to keep up appearances, Ulquiorra stated from behind her. She could feel his breath on her neck and she wanted to shiver at the feeling of it, but she stood firm and put her mind to focus on not atomic blushing and fainting again. Before they could continue any further, a knock was heard at the door, Orham activated her by Akigan and saw who it was Jin Ichimaru, and that is what she signaled to Ulquiorra. Ulquiorra cracked the door open a tiny bit and asked, what do you want Jin, I'm busy with something at the moment. Is that any way to speak to your former sensei, my cute little genin, Naruto Uzumaki, Jin stated and once again, Orham must have heard because she fainted again. Chapter 3. Truth. Ulquiorra was not happy. Jin shows up at his door and said his true name, and he made Orham faint. He hated this. Jin is Kakashi, that is one thing he did not want to happen, but why was he here and not in the Gate 13? Back in Konoha his loyalty was legendary. If he was here, how many others were here, and what could this mean for him and Orham? Would they have to deal with so much trash that they can't stand it? Ulquiorra picked up Orham before she hit the ground from her faint and moved her to the bed without a word to Jin Kakashi, whichever he preferred to be called. I bet you're wondering how I am here, isn't that right, Naruto-kun? Jin Kakashi stated with a snake-like grin that Ulquiorra hated. He didn't say anything and waited 10 minutes before Orham woke up, and boy did she awake, bolting upright, she immediately activated her Byakugan and attacked Jin Kakashi. She obviously remembered her training from when she was hinata, and surprisingly, she used speed that many didn't know she had and locked all of his Ryatsu in an instant. This was apparently something that he wasn't ready for and toppled to the ground, and the couple knew they had him, all that was left to do was tie him up. Jin Kakashi woke up with a headache and sore everywhere else. He didn't expect Hinata to still have her Byakugan, nor did he think she would be that fast. I see you are now awake. I have questions, such as how you died and why you are now with Aizen instead of loyally following the Gate 13, he heard Naruto Ulquiorra's voice. Well, first of all, I died with my love in my arms, and before you ask, yes, it's only us four here. I am with Aizen for now because I'm a triple agent, first for the Soul King to ensure Gate 13 didn't make plans like Aizen is doing now. Second for the Gate 13 to spy on Aizen, however with a spy mission like this, not even who you are spying for can know that you're their spy. First and foremost, though, I am a spy for Ranjiku-chan, she and I wanted to find you using any means possible, you knew her as Anko Mitarashi, and we four are the only ones here. As for how we both died, in each other's arms after being betrayed by Konoha, we found out that you were betrayed when we got back from a mission to deliver a letter to the Tsuchikage. When we returned, you both were already dead, and Tsunade's plan was already in action with a letter apparently containing the information that was needed, Jin Kakashi explained. You left Ranjiku-san thinking that you betrayed everyone, and yet you still consider yourself in league with her on this, Orham asked in anger. Only everyone else thinks I'm a traitor, Ranjiku-chan is just such a good actress that everyone thinks she's sad at my being a traitor, he replied. That makes sense, so Kakashi, I always wondered, why did you treat Sasuke as the golden child and leave Naruto-kun to his own devices, Orham asked. It's Jin, I abandoned that name a long time ago, and it was an order by the Civilian and Ninja Council, as well as the third Hokage, they knew you were the son of the fourth, but they didn't care as long as you held the Kyuubi. They thought that if you were weak and Sasuke was strong, he could use his Sharingan to control you if you went on a rampage. I was still loyal to only Konoha, so the only option left to me was to obey the orders given, Jin stated. Very well, and you haven't asked why you are telling me all this so easily, why, Ulquiorra asked. I just figured you took some truth serum from Sailaporo, that is what you did, right, he stated with a snake-like grin. Why do you appear to be more snake-like than you were back in the elemental nations? I figured you would be more dog-like, Orham asked. When we both died, I took on the traits of Anko, I don't know why, but I like it, it makes me 10 times scarier when ticked off, Jin stated jinning. Thank you for telling the truth, and sorry to hear about your death so late, she apologized while she untied him, even if he still creeped her out. No worries, after this whole mess with Aizen is done with, want to go see all those who betrayed us for payback, he said casually while rubbing his wrists from the rope. What do you mean by that? Am I to assume that you are implying there is enough of a time difference in the dimensions that they are all still alive? Ulquiorra asked. All are alive and well, and I do mean all, Tsunade and the other cage included, and all of your allies as well. When I was spying on everyone I had started a spread of rumors that you weren't really dead, just laying low until the correct time to strike, and I believe that time has almost come. Don't you? Jin asked as Orham and Ulquiorra began to think over what was just revealed to them, they could return for their vengeance, and they would have allies. What information can you tell us about the state of affairs there, or about any allies we still have in the Leaf? Ulquiorra finally asked. Gaara is the new Kazekage, but everyone knows that he's just a figurehead for their council, his mind has been altered with various seals. The Ichirikas have gone to the land of spring to start a new business away from the people of the Leaf. Yugao Yuzuki, or as you know her, Nico Kachan, has defected and gone with Jiraiya-sama and become a member of the Akatsuki. Apparently, a former student of his leads it and in exchange for helping them with their new end goal, has agreed to destroy the Leaf. The Konohamaru Corps has betrayed you and told everyone all the secrets you taught Konohamaru, even the secrets about your shadow clones. All of Konoha's allies are living wonderfully as trade is up to the point nobody questions how the peace came about, save for a few. The only ally you still have left in the village now is the Jounin senseis and elders of the Leaf, they are the only ones with enough experience to know that it won't end pretty in the end. Your biggest supporter in the Leaf is a man named Danzo Shimura. He runs an underground Anbu faction called Root, where he trains them to hide their emotions, but doesn't get rid of them like everyone believes, Jin informed. Orham turned to Ulquiorra before she spoke. At least we have a few allies in the Leaf, and with one of them being my own old sensei is wonderful news, but where were they when we were executed? Tsunade knew that they would probably attempt to rescue us, so she must have sent them on mission so they would miss the execution. And Kuni must have found out when she arrived and confronted Tsunade with Kakashi at her side, which led to their deaths, he answered. That's exactly what happened. I knew you were smarter than you let on, but I didn't know how smart until it was too late, Jin said, sounding a bit sad. So, when you died in each other's arms, your soul's personalities must have switched as well, causing you to be more snake-like, but what did Anko get from you? Orham asked. My laziness, Jin answered truthfully, and if you did know Ranjiku, you knew she was lazy, which is why she nodded in understanding. So, it's decided then, after the business with Aizen is dealt with, we shall head for the elemental nations for revenge. Anyone not in agreement will be ignored, Ulquiorra stated. Very well, but can I have the cure for the truth serum? Don't want Aizen to be let in on our plans, Jin asked before being handed the antidote and downed it in one gulp. Now go, I need some private time with Orham, and no, you cannot know what it is, he said as he saw that Jin was about to ask what the private time consisted of. Fine, but I also came by to tell you that Ichigo is inside Las Notches and close to this point, he said with a grin. I'm going to have to play the damsel in distress again, aren't I? Orham asked out loud. Well, we could always have Ulquiorra play the damsel, but that wouldn't do much good with the ones coming, Jin teased as Orham giggled. I wouldn't be too sure about that. If he thought that Ulquiorra-kun was being bullied, Kurosaki-san will probably save him just for the fight, Orham giggled out. Where are the intruders at this moment? Ulquiorra asked emotionlessly. If they wanted his woman back, they wouldn't last too long before death. Suddenly, one of the intruders' spiritual pressure just lost a lot of its strength in one single moment, and they all knew who it was, Chad. Noitra was the one that took him out from his own impatience, the arrogant trash. That answers that question. I will see about locating the others and driving them out of here. Haim-chan, do I need to kill one or two for them to follow the message? Try not to kill any of them if you can, but if the worst does happen, tell me the truth is all I ask, Orham asked of him. Being a former shinobi, she was aware of her former friend's possibility of death. It was ingrained in all of their minds at an early age at the academy, and so it was now where those lessons were coming in handy. I might need to say some things as well for them to get the picture. You can use the television on the wall in front of the couch to peek in on us, Ulquiorra stated while she nodded. I need to get back to Aizen, we're making our move soon. Did you do what you thought up though, Orham? Jin asked with a knowing smile. This shocked Orham that someone knew her plan, or that she was capable of doing it. She didn't when she tried, but eventually she succeeded. Yes, Aizen is no longer fused completely with the Heijyoku, instead he will only have a fraction of its power, allowing whoever may want to kill him to do so, if they can get to him, she stated back. Jin smiled before using Shunpo to leave the room and area as quick as he could without being noticed. I will be back, Haim-chan, I love you, Ulquiorra stated as he kissed Orham goodbye for now. I love you too, Ulquiorra-kun, Orham replied before she gave him a quick peck, as well before Ulquiorra used Sanito to leave the area. Not a moment after he did was another feeling hit by Orham. Rukia was also badly injured and on the verge of death. Orham went to watch the fight on Ulquiorra's massive big screen television, and by massive, the screen was the size of the wall. She watched the whole fight, if you can call it that, with how her Ulquiorra-kun destroyed Kurosaki-san. She did feel a little bad about having to scare them away like this, but what would you do if you were in her position? Just then she heard a creak at the door and knew it wasn't Ulquiorra because he was still with the body of Ichigo. The door opened up slightly and in stepped two female Ranker, Loli Acern and Minoli Malia. Oh Orham, let's play a little game, Loli stated in a singing voice that might be mistaken for that of a creepy child. I don't feel like playing any games with you, please leave, Orham asked as nicely as she could. What did you just say, bitch? It looks like someone needs to be taught a little lesson, Loli almost yelled before she moved in a Sanito to attack at the reincarnate. Only for said girl to catch the attacking Ranker by surprise. When Loli thrust out her hand for an attack, Orham spun around the arm and delivered a fierce strike the chest of her attacker. The strike contained a concentration of Riatsu that was injected into Loli's system and crushed all it could find. Orham felt bad for killing someone, but this wasn't the same girl who let people walk over her. This was a former shinobi that wouldn't take being bullied. She must say though, it felt very good to feel her control and wonderful eyesight return to what they once were. Minoli was very scared now. Loli was just killed with no effort at all from a human girl. All she did was stare at the downed and unmoving Loli and the straight and unnerving eyes of Orham, the human. She was about to run from the person before the wall behind her was blasted to oblivion by a Grimjo as he was walking in. Never been in Ulquiorra's room before, I wonder why you are here though, Grimjo said as he noticed the two people still alive. Which one of you did this to Loli, he said as he walked up and kicked her over so she was on her back. It was that monster of a human, she did this weird thing with her hands when Loli went in for an attack, I was just about to leave when you blasted the wall, Minoli sounded out. Now how did a mere human kill in a rancor without getting a scratch, with her eyes closed no less, he asked as he noted Orham's eyes were closed and she didn't have a scratch on her. Because she isn't human, she's a monster that killed my sister, now I'm going to kill her, she yelled out since she knew Grimjo was here, so she might have some backup. She didn't expect him to actually thrust his own hand through her chest and kill her though, which is what he did. I asked both of you why you were in here, didn't I? Grimjo asked looking calm as he could be with what just happened. Ulquiorra-kun led me here and let me watch his fight with Ichigo, those two came in not long after his fight and tried to attack me. Let me guess though, you want me to go with you so I can heal Ichigo and let you fight him, right? Orham guessed. You're smart woman, yes, now hold on tight so I don't leave a part of you behind, he said before roughly grabbing onto her and using Sanito to get to where Ichigo is. After was a blur for Orham, first healing her former friend and then having her love sealed, using Kaja negation, into a different dimension for a few hours. The fight with Ichigo where he, a little foolishly, thought she would be returning with them after they win. Ichigo's brief fight with Neutra, Neliel's fight with Neutra, and then finally the captain of Squad 11 showing up to fight and finally defeat Neutra. Iode Sterk showing up and taking her back to Aizen who told her to wait there until after he destroys her hometown before heading to said hometown. The best news that Orham ever heard was the last surprise though, Ulquiorra was left in charge of Las Notches and appeared right in front of her. She couldn't contain herself, as soon as the Garganta that took Aizen to Karakura town was closed, she launched herself and held onto Ulquiorra for dear life, as he hugged her back. I thought I would never see you again for a moment there, I don't know what I would do without you, Orham stated as they hugged. Of course I came back, I did give you my word, Ulquiorra stated as if it was a fact and not hope. Of course, what was I thinking, she said jokingly before kissing him, and as he kissed her back, they soon heard a crash and looked over to see Ichigo standing there behind Ulquiorra. Get away from her Ulquiorra, Orham, I've come to rescue you so we can go home together, Ichigo stated as he held his sword at a ready position. Well this is awkward, I knew I forgot to tell him something when we weren't really busy and still had free time, Orham mumbled. You think, Ulquiorra said as emotionless as he could, but you could still tell it was a deadpan response. Oh hush you, I've just had a lot on the brain with you being sealed for a while, and me getting attacked by Loli and Minoli, which resulted in me having to kill Loli by the way, she said as she smacked his chest at the beginning playfully. If I had known that I would have burned their bodies instead of just leaving them in my room, why don't we go back there and do that now, he suggested before a blast of Ichigo's Yotsuga Tenshu forced them to separate. I see now that you somehow brainwashed her into thinking that she must love you, probably for your own sick enjoyment, right? Well, I'll just have to kill you and have Kisuke fix her later, Ichigo guessed, wrongly so, before jumping to Ulquiorra intent on striking him down. Ulquiorra drew his Zanpakuto and blocked the strike, as he did with the others that followed from the inexperienced Shinigami. As this was happening, Orham was yelling at Ichigo to stop fighting or she would make them stop, but the substitute Shinigami wasn't listening. Fine, if you won't stop, I guess I have to, Orham said solemnly before signaling to Ulquiorra to hold him still so she could get him. He did so and forced him into standing in one spot with their Zanpakuto locked and Ulquiorra grabbing onto Ichigo's wrist and squeezing. Orham got into position and dealt a series of jabs to Ichigo's pressure points to paralyze him, and it worked wonderfully. His limp body was being supported by Ulquiorra, who put him on his back piggyback style to carry him. I will not be taken prisoner by you, whatever you've done to Orham will be reversed, and I promise you, that will be the case, Ichigo tried to scream, but came out as a normal voice. I wouldn't try to scream Kurosaki-san, I blocked all unnecessary function to your vocal cords, as well as paralyze you, screaming would just be too loud, Orham said with a smile. Another thing Orham would never normally do is casually mention that she paralyzed me with whatever that was you used on me, nor would she ever do so. Another thing that proves you have been brainwashed or something is your eyes, why are they a pale lavender color if you aren't brainwashed, he said right back to her. I'm starting to get sick and tired of people thinking I'm brainwashed just because of some little detail. First people from Konoha thought I was a demon's whore. Now someone is saying that I'm brainwashed because of my Kekkei Genkai, when will it end, Orham asked herself. It will end when he releases you from whatever brainwashing he has over you to make you think that you love him or something, Ichigo tried to yell again. Be quiet will you, we're almost to your friends and as you can see, they are all quite fine, if not just a little banged up, Ulquiorra stated as they approached the group of infiltrators. Them, along with the Shinigami captains, had all gathered together and was waiting for only Ichigo and Orham to return. What a surprise. See Kurosaki-san, we're all safe and sound with nobody in the group dead, so all you need to do is calm down and head off to fight Aizen, okay, Orham said with a smile again. Orham, they heard before she was hugged by everyone that originally came to rescue her with enough force to send her down to the ground. Everyone move away from her, that is not the Orham we know, she has to have been brainwashed or under some kind of mind control or something, Ichigo finally yelled out after struggling to. Everyone looked at Orham for a second before looking back at Ichigo and where he was on an Espada's back. Then they finally looked at Orham again and saw how her eyes were a different color than what they were supposed to be. Everyone immediately backed away from her and got into defensive stances with some eyes on Orham, while the captains were all eyes on the Espada. I feel as though we should have had you contacts made to hide your new features until everything was explained, Ulquiorra stated to her as he dropped Ichigo rather harshly and helping Orham off the ground. I am only going to say this once, Arankar, back away from the girl and release her from your brainwashing at once, or I will dispatch you and see if that frees her, Byakuya stated. If I wanted to harm her in any way I would have already, and if you threaten me again Shinigami, I will be sure to remove such a pompous and arrogant head, he replied back with disdain in his eyes. Byakuya knew that look, let me guess, you have had trouble with nobility when you were alive and don't like me, because I remind you of it, he guessed. Incorrect, I have never had much trouble with nobility, in fact I had quite a few allies that were from nobility, even one royalty, it is not my personal reasons why I dislike nobility, Ulquiorra stated. Enough of this, hand over the woman and release her from your mind control or whatever so we can get to fighting, Kenpachi Zaraki grunted out impatiently. I am not being mind controlled, I just finally found a lost love from my past life, Orham yelled out so everyone would calm down and stop fighting. Earl, for you to remember a past life from the cycle of reincarnation is quite the feat, but that has never been done before, interesting, Mayuri Kuritsuchi said, while eyeing Orham like she was a piece of meat. Look at her like that again and you piece of trash, and you will know the meaning of despair, Ulquiorra stated as he saw that look. Why, I only wanted to know what was wrong with her that she remembered what others do not, and don't you want to know what all her new features can do, the scientist asked motioning to her eyes. We already know what my eyes can do, it's called the Byakugan and can do many things, such as see Reiatsu, and how much of it is in each person here, Orham stated proudly. Then who has the weakest Reiatsu here then, Mayuri asked since this was a good way to test it without dissecting her. She activated her Byakugan with ease and noticed that the weakest of Reiatsu belonged to the silver-haired lieutenant of Squad 4, so that's who she pointed to. Everyone turned to who she was pointing to and then back to her, and then they looked to a different person altogether, a young Shinigami named Hinata Yamada. Then they all just laughed as if she said something funnier than any joke she ever heard, all the while pointing to Orham. Orham, that's the third seat of Squad 4, are you saying that he's stronger than the current lieutenant of Squad 4, Rukia asked while trying to hold in her laughter. Yes, his Reiatsu reserves are larger than the lieutenant and has a far better, how should I put this, Reiatsu circulatory system than the lieutenant, though he is still one of the weakest ones here, along with the lieutenant. Orham stated with a straight face that remained that way until she saw that everyone had calmed down and realized that she isn't lying. I suggest that Ichigo and the captain of Squad 4 hurry up and leave for the battlefield in Karakura town, tell Jin that home is calling, he will know what it means, Ulquiorra stated emotionlessly. Fine, I'll go and fight Aizen, but when I win you two had better start explaining everything, Ichigo growled out before noticing that they were stuck in Hueco Mundo with no way out. I can open up a Garganta, but you will have to travel some ways before you reach the world of the living, the Espada said before snapping his fingers and a mouth formed in the sky from nothing. Let us go then, Kurosaki-san, we need to make it there before anyone is beyond saving, Retsu Anohana stated as she walked to the Garganta. Ichigo quickly followed and both left the land of hollows and returned to the battlefield to fight and heal, while everyone else stayed to recover their own injuries thanks to Orham, whom they still doubted wasn't brainwashed. Once everyone was healed up and no longer in any danger, Orham stood beside of Ulquiorra as they waited for Jin and Ranjiku to arrive so they can go home for revenge. Do you think that Jin will survive? If he doesn't we don't know if Ranjiku-san will help us, Orham asked quietly as to not arouse suspicion of what they are talking about. He will, we set up a plan when I ran into him again when I was returning to our room, him and Ranjiku-ni will return, and we will all get our revenge, Ulquiorra replied. You just said our room, does that mean you intended that we share that room until we left for the elemental nations, she asked while getting an atomic blush. Yes, I did, it's only natural that a couple live together, or is that not how things work in the current era? I don't have much experience in the aspect of couples in today's time period. I studied human couple relationships in the 70s and 80s when no one was looking, so I might be out of date in my information, he admitted as he took on a thinking pose. That's fine, nowadays there are many couples that live together while not married, so this isn't anything abnormal, it's just that I was raised a bit more traditional, so I was just surprised is all, Orham admitted nervously. Isn't sleeping together before marriage also non-traditional? I didn't see you complaining then, Ulquiorra said as emotionlessly as ever, but if you looked closely you could see his lips slanting upwards a tiny bit. The effect of what he said was immediate as her face went atomic at his and thought back on what all they did, and as she did she got the largest nosebleed she ever remembered she had gotten. This also led to her instinctively passing out to avoid any more embarrassment at what was being talked about, just like the old days. Ulquiorra caught her on instinct as she fell to the ground and then heard the clinking of metal and looked to see everyone having their swords drawn and pointed at him. This is going to be bothersome to explain was his thoughts as he thought of a way to get out of this mess when he heard a tone of voice he hadn't heard in years. Long time no see Gaki, how's the #1 most unpredictable ninja doing on this fine morning, Ranjiku stated as she and Jin exited a Garganta. Chapter 4. Going home. Ulquiorra didn't respond to the comment made by Ranjiku, or did she prefer to go by Anko? He would have to ask her when Orham was awake from the faint, which seemed to happen at the oddest of times. Instead he waited 10 minutes before Orham finally awoke and looked at the predicament they were in, and boy was it one for the ages. For 10 minutes Ulquiorra had every single weapon they all had on hand aimed at him, while Ranjiku and Jin just waited patiently until she awoke. Ulquiorra-kun, why is everyone pointing a weapon at you? Orham asked with a cute tilt of the head. I assume it's because they saw you faint and reacted on instinct, which drove them to turn their weapons on me, assuming I did something to you, which I didn't, Ulquiorra stated. You were talking about something personal in the open, that's what caused me to faint, so in a way they were right, but still wrong to turn on you like that, she chided them. Hey Orham-chan, Ranjiku called out and made sure all attention was on her as she shoved past the other Shinigami to get to the couple, where she scooped them in her arms. I didn't know that you were Hinata-chan, if I had known that I never would have let you out of my sight. Same with the Gaki, I never even thought that he turned into an Aranker, I kept looking for him in the Rukongai. It's good to see you as well Anko-ni, Ulquiorra stated and confused the Shinigami that were still eyeing him suspiciously. I go by Ranjiku now Gaki, just as Kakashi goes by Jin, she informed him as she separated the hug. What is going on here, and where is Ichigo Kurosaki, shouldn't he have been here with you? Byakuya asked and interrupting the conversation. Oh, I forgot you all were here, this is a conversation of people from the same place, if you want to participate, then you have to know, and you don't, Jin said with a grin full of mischief. I suggest you back off traitor, and I suggest you do so before I make you, Kenpachi ordered as he stepped closer. Let's all just take a break for the time being, okay, wouldn't want anything bad to happen, would we, Ranjiku suggested as she saw things start to get heated. How can you of all people say that, surely you haven't forgotten all him and his other 2 traitors did, how can you try to make peace, Renji asked. Because I knew he wasn't really working for Aizen all along, you really think he would let himself be strung along like that, really, she asked right back as if waving him off. I personally thought and think that he's fooling everyone into thinking he's on anyone's side, when in truth, he's just playing everyone, Uryu brought up his thoughts. Well, he's not, he was just using Aizen to help him find those 2 over there, Ranjiku stated as she pointed at Ulquiorra and Orham. We are still not letting you take in a ranker and a human girl to some unknown land, at least not without experimenting first, Mayuri stated as he and the others lurched forward. If you do that, you'll never get to know what is happening with Kurosaki-san, Jin pointed out as they stopped in their advancements on him. Did something happen with Ichigo, what has Aizen done with him you coward, Rukia asked as she approached. The plan is simple, Aizen was to fuse with the Hijoku, and I was to reject the fusion, making Aizen killable again. Then in the battle between Kurosaki-san and Aizen, Kurosaki-san was to use a move called the Final Jutsuga Tenshu that would kill Aizen and rid Kurosaki-san of his powers, Orham surprisingly explained. How did you know this, Jin asked since he only told Ulquiorra in passing and didn't have time to tell Orham. We had been whispering about it until I said some things that made her blush and faint at what was said in public, Ulquiorra answered. You knew about this plan Orham, why would you do such a thing if you knew the outcome, that's not the Orham that we knew, Ichigo was right, you have been brainwashed, Rukia cried out. She hasn't been brainwashed Kachiki-chan, she's been awakened to become her full self, me, Jin, Orham, and the Gaki over there aren't from the world of the living that you know. We are from a world of the living where shinobi are the bulk of military power, with abilities you wouldn't believe. Me, Jin and the Gaki all died and became either a Shinigami or an Aranker, but Orham got put into the cycle of reincarnation and became what you know as Orham Inoue, Ranjiku explained. It's also not like we left Karakura defenseless, it has Uryuchad, Uruchi, and any Shinigami that is stationed there, and you know it was the only way, Jin stated calmly. The only way to what? Make sure a huge powerhouse like Ichigo won't stand in your way, Renji argued. No, to make sure that Kurosaki-san doesn't follow us, you know that he would follow after us after we left, in order to get me back from what he believes are enemy hands, Orham stated. I can't believe what I'm hearing, Orham, whatever that hollow was in a past life to you doesn't mean a thing, he's now an insatiable beast that cannot be trusted, Rukia argued. Just then the Garganta opened up and out stepped Tai Harable, along with her Frachian, Sung Sun, Mila Rose, and Apache, all of whom are being escorted by Kisuke Urahara. What are you all doing just waiting around, we have to go now, let's get moving, chop, chop, Kisu hollered after them all. Just a second, Orham is being stubborn, please Orham, come back with us, that hollow can no longer love you, hollows don't love, Rukia pleaded with her friend. That's a common misconception, in fact, all hollows and a rancor can love, and apparently are picky to the point of wanting to be with a human, Tia said with a little hurt in her eyes. Orham saw this and had her eyes covered by her bangs, Ulquiorra-kun, was she at all interested in you by any chance? A few times she took a pass at me, but I turned her down immediately after she offered, why do you ask? Ulquiorra answered while confused as to why she would ask. Orham acted with no remorse as she moved to strike at Tia, before Jin and Ranjiku had to hold her back from attacking with a full Byakugan activated and hoping for a fatal hit. Tia was surprised at how far she had gotten before everyone could react, her hands were a full inch from her chest before Jin and Ranjiku got to the girl in time. That was a close one, now Orham-chan, you shouldn't let rage blind you like that, Jin said with a smile, even though he was having difficulty holding the girl back. Damn Gaki, I thought you weren't dense and just pretending, but you have to be pretty dumb to not know that will happen, Ranjiku commented as she was struggling to hold the girl back as well. Fine, I'll calm her down, Ulquiorra calmly stated before motioning for Tia to step back and for him to take her place. When he got in front of Orham, he did what nobody expected. He kissed her while placing a hand on her cheek and another at her waist, while Jin and Ranjiku still had her arms. The moment they released the arms, Orham's hands went straight around Ulquiorra's neck as the kiss deepened. Wow, I never thought I would see the day when any form of Hinata-chan was able to stand a make-out session with a Gaki, why didn't you tell me that, Ranjiku asked Jin. You didn't ask, but if you want to know all that they've done, they already had sex with one another, Jin casually mentioned as everyone else got slack jaws from that comment. Then Rukia had an idea, wait I got it, Orham had a lapse in judgment and slept with the guy and got pregnant, and instead of leaving the kid fatherless and leaving him. She instead ended up deciding that betraying us would be better, so she made up the whole reincarnated lovers thing, just so we would want to leave her here, so she could raise the child with him. Then why is she smacking lips with him and looking like she's enjoying it, Renji asked her. Shut up, my theory is flawless and you know it, she must really be into the act, Rukia theorized again. Slow clapping was heard, and everyone turned to Ranjiku and Jin who were clapping, congratulations, you just reached a whole new level of stupid, Ranjiku congratulated. Yes, it's not every day that someone made a theory that rivaled Naruto-kun's, let alone surpassed it, Jin stated. Yeah, the Gaki would be impressed if he weren't so busy making out with his girlfriend, she called over her shoulder and froze as she saw they weren't making out, but right behind her. You people can stop talking about us as though we are not here, and I am impressed at the girl's theory, it surpassed my expectation of what trash can think up, Ulquiorra stated emotionlessly. Shows what you know, Orham, tell them I'm right, and don't bother denying it, we've already caught you, Rukia stated. The theory is wrong, if I was doing what you are suggesting, that would mean that a living human can bear the child of an rancor, I don't even know if that's possible, but I do hope it is, Orham said. Then you are being mind-controlled, or you were forced into being his after they tortured you emotionally, she guessed wrong again. Actually, Orham isn't being mind-controlled and she isn't being taken away against her will, and she isn't pregnant with Ulquiorra-sen's baby. She actually is a reincarnate, I noticed her soul whenever I was doing some research and knew she didn't belong in Soul Society, so I sent her to our world of the living. Now that I see the two, I get the feeling I made the right call, Kisuke stated as he stood in front of them. What will Ichigo say when he realizes this? I don't think this will blow over in a good way, Uryu said as he adjusted his glasses. It doesn't matter because nothing we do can stop them, they'll go by any means, and no means we have can track them, am I right, Kisuke asked with a sly grin. You are a clever one, aren't you Urahara-san, there is no way for you to track us once we get in or through the portal. The only way to get there is for the one to open it to know the place they are opening to, and I doubt that anyone here knows the place, Jin stated. And it's not like we'll be gone forever, this is just a long-term mission until we're sure everything over there is taken care of, then we'll visit, Ranjiku assured. You mean that the captain commander actually sanctioned this as a mission? Renji asked as if she had lost her mind. Did I forget to mention that the official mission is to explore a new undiscovered world for any threats to the Soul Society, and I even talked him into letting me pick my own personnel. I just didn't mention who would be among that personnel, like a scene trader, and a ranker, and a human girl, she said in a grin. Very well then, if this is an official mission, go then, we will return to the Soul Society, Byakuya stated, since this was an official mission, he didn't care. How do you make this portal? It can't be a simple Sinkamen, it must be something more, Mayuri asked. You'll see, was what Jin said before proceeding to open a Garganta and then a Sinkamen in the same plane of space as the Garganta. This caused a shift with the normal mouth of the Garganta, where it began to merge with the Sinkamen gate and form a new gate entirely as a round circular blue portal swirled around in place. This is the portal used, it doesn't have a name as we just decided to call it portal, but to open it, you need to know where you are going at the world of the living you are going. Also, the only way to follow us is to know the full secrets of both Garganta and Sinkamen, and that's only known by us, Ranjiku added. I grow tired of this chatter, are you ready to go Orham? Ulquiorra asked. Already, but I want to go back to my apartment and get some of my own clothes to wear first, that way we don't have to buy anything from back home, we don't have any money for there anyways, Orham asked. The cloths you have on now are fine and undamaged, plus we have plenty of clothes that will fit you back in your room, he replied. She bowed her head and mumbled something that sounded like puppy dog eyes no jutsu and lifted her head up for everyone to see the cutest pair of puppy dog eyes you had ever seen. Ulquiorra stared blankly at her and showed no emotion whatsoever, and it looked like the emotionless Ranker was going to deny again. Then he sighed, very well, we will go to Kurakura town first and retrieve your things before coming back here and going back to the elemental nations. Jin and Ranjiku actually laughed at him because he caved, everyone else was just reeling from the power that Orham just possessed. I can't believe you still can't deny the puppy eyes, pathetic, Ranjiku said while laughing. Be silent, Ulquiorra ordered before opening a separate Garganta, and him and Orham stepped through it while still hearing the laughter on the other side as it closed. Orham's apartment. The couple stepped out of the Garganta and into the living room of Orham's apartment in the world of the living, the Shinigami seemed to have already put it back from the Soul Society. Orham wordlessly went to her bedroom with the door opened and started to gather all the supplies she thought she might need for the trip. As she was gathering a few of her clothes she gained a sad look in her eyes, Ulquiorra noticed this and approached her about it. I know you are sad about leaving your friends, but keep in mind that what we are about to do is for the good of all, if that helps any, Ulquiorra said. It's not just that, I would have liked to say goodbye to Tatsuki, my best friend in this life, but we don't have time for that, Orham admitted. I never said we also couldn't visit your friend, I just said we'll be going to your apartment before going back to Hueco Mundo, he replied. Does that mean we can go see Tatsuki before leaving, she asked with hope, and seeing him nod made her jump for joy. Wonderful, now I can introduce you to my friend, I don't know how she'll react since the last time you unofficially met her scared of you, but who knows. Orham hurried up and packed the rest of her things and was about to walk to the door with Ulquiorra in tow before he stopped her with her words. Why are we walking there? I said we can visit, but I never said that we can take our time, we do have a time schedule to keep, he said before opening a Garganta again and took it to the place where Tatsuki was. In the middle of the street. The couple stepped out of the black mouth in the air to the sight of teenagers receiving medical treatment from some of the members of Squad 4. The first to notice them was a black-headed boy named Mizuro and looked up to see that Orham stepped out of a black void with a pale guy at her side and were they holding hands. Hey Tatsuki, I think you should turn around, Mizuro called out to the teenage girl who was being treated with her back to the couple. The black-haired teen turned around and saw a sight that horrified her, Orham, her best friend was holding hands with one of the same monsters she saw in the park that day. Orham, what are you doing holding hands with him? Tatsuki yelled out and forced everyone else to turn around as well. What do you mean? Oh, I guess I should introduce you to my boyfriend, Tatsuki, this is Ulquiorra Cypher, and Ulquiorra-kun, this is my best friend, Tatsuki Arasawa, Orham introduced. Whoa, did I just hear that right, Orham has a boyfriend, a brown-haired boy by the name of Kigo Asano exclaimed in amazement. When he looked at who it was however, he felt only emptiness when staring into the man's eyes. Yep, Ulquiorra-kun, don't be rude and introduce yourself, Orham pressed while using a subtle little puppy dog eyes. He sighed before stating, hello, my name is Ulquiorra Cypher, with a small nod of acknowledgement that they can at least stand his presence. Okay, I'm freaking out now, why did you attack the park if you were her boyfriend, this doesn't make any sense, Tatsuki asked. He wasn't my boyfriend at the time, and he was attacking because he was under orders involving Kurosaki-san, that lead Ulquiorra-kun to uncover my powers. When he showed his memories to Aizen, he was ordered to abduct me so he could use my power of rejection, but Aizen never expected something. Me and Ulquiorra fell in love with one another and were secret key players to his fall. Now we are going on a long-term mission to another world of the living, Orham explained. This is all too much, why are you going to another world of the living, Ichigo asked. We are going as a research team to explore a new world. I will obviously be the team's medic, since the Soul Society can't expend any of their own medics at this time, she explained. So you got rescued by this guy before Ichigo got there, and this was all just a big waste of Ichigo's time, and now you just came back to say goodbye, since you don't know the next time we'll see you, Tatsuki guessed. That's right, I wanted you to know so you knew that I'll be gone for some time, and I would like for you to tell everyone that I'll miss them until me and Ulquiorra returns, Orham confirmed. Fine, but stay safe, and Ulquiorra-san, if you hurt her or let her get hurt in any way, I'll go to that world and kill you myself, Tatsuki threatened. Ulquiorra had to admit, this simple human was interesting, as were the others. He was suppressing his Ryatsu greatly, but could say that it was still quite the some amount that he wasn't suppressing. I was already planning on protecting her with my life, you don't need to worry, Orham-chan, we must return so we may depart, Ulquiorra stated. He opened a garganta in the middle of the street and took a step through it as did Orham as she waved to her friends goodbye and didn't stop till the gate closed. I will miss them, but let's get back, you would be surprised at how much I'm missing your favorite ramen, or is it only Naruto-kun's, Orham asked. I still like ramen, I won't say love because I, as Ulquiorra, have only ever loved one thing, and that is you Orham-chan, Ulquiorra said. How sweet of you, she said before kissing him on the cheek and walking slightly ahead of him while adding a little sway to her hips. I wish we weren't on a time schedule right now, but maybe when we get back to the elemental nations, we can have some fun where we're not supposed to. I would like that very much, was all he said before they stopped in the middle of the black abyss between worlds. Before we go any further for anything, I want you to smile for me, a true and honest smile like you used to do, for me, please, Orham asked with puppy eyes. Ulquiorra stood there for a moment before letting out a sigh, I don't even know if I can anymore. He closed his eyes and seemed to be in deep concentration before the impossible seemed to happen before Orham's very eyes. After all, I never could deny you, could I, Hinata-chan, Ulquiorra said with a big toothy smile like he used to give when they were in their old lives before everything turned bad. The effect was instant for Orham as she blushed her famous atomic blush and barely kept herself stable to where she didn't faint, but instead went to kiss him. It was a good kiss, one of those kiss as if two lovers were reuniting for the first time, the last kiss was like that, but this one seemed to hold a longing in it. It lasted a few moments more until they broke apart for some air, and quietly Orham said, thank you, before they silently left for Las Noches. It didn't take long to get back, maybe a minute and a half, before the garganta mouth opened to the blue skies with only Jin and Ranjiku standing on the sand with the portal ready. Are you two ready to go, because I want to get back to our home realm and beat some people, Ranjiku mentioned. Still a sadist I see, Ulquiorra commented emotionless, but you could tell it was a dry remark. So what, you know, to keep my cover I had to go easy on the training of my subordinates, but not now, now I get to cut loose, so let's go already so I can, was her reply. They all nodded and went through the portal to their home, the elemental nations, and their revenge, and Uzumaki always keeps their words after all. Chapter 5. Good to have you back. Nami no Kuni, or the Land of Waves, was currently a prosperous town. Many different countries had deals in place to provide a great number of exports. The secret to their success, a great bridge that connected Nami no Kuni to Hai no Kuni, or Land of Fire, which allowed the land to grow quite prosperous thanks to its effect. This wasn't always the case, before the bridge was built the land was quite poor, people were starving, nothing would sell, and to make matters worse, an evil mob boss was destroying the lives of many. This was until a bridge builder by the name of Tazuna built the bridge and connected Nami no Kuni to Hai no Kuni, and also brought in a team of ninja to protect him and deal with the problem that was Gato, the evil mob boss. The team of ninja Tazuna brought with him consisted of Kakashi Haddock, Sakura Haruno, Sasuke Uchiha, and Naruto Uzumaki, otherwise known as Team 7. Gato hired ninja of his own to take out the bridge builder on his way back to Nami, Zabuza Mamachi, a master of the silent killing technique, along with his apprentice, Haku. Eventually there was a battle on the bridge that led to the death of both, Haku at the hands of Kakashi after being beaten by Naruto, and Zabuza from the injuries from him, and Kakashi's fight mixed with a fight with Gato's thugs. Then the civilians came to help defend their home from Gato themselves, too late to the party, but nice of them to come try and help. The one who inspired them, Naruto Uzumaki, and that led to Tazuna naming the bridge the Naruto Hashi, or Great Naruto Bridge, after the hero of Nami. After 2 years away however, a lot can change for our heroes, who knows what actually has changed, but when a portal of spiraling energy came forth to let the group through, who knows what they'll discover. "Where did you bring us, Jin?" Ranjiku asked. She no longer wore her usual shihakusho, now she wore a similar version of what Orham wore in Aizen's army under a white cloak. "I dropped us and Nami no Kuni, figured we could start with forming a plan on how to go about getting our revenge," Jin answered. He still wore his Aizen's army uniform under a white cloak, thought it made him look more scary. "I have a feeling that if our life was a story that dropping us and Nami would be a little cliché," Orham thought out loud in her own Aizen's army uniform under a white cloak. "You may be right, but let's head over to Tezuna's, see if we can have shelter from the elements while we plan," Ulquiorra stated wearing his usual Rancor attire under a white cloak. They made the track through the woods and soon arrived at Tezuna's old house, all 2 stories of it that brought back old memories for our group. Only thing is, it looked abandoned and seemed to have been for more than a year and a half at the least. "I wonder what happened, the people of Wave should have at least kept up the house in the bridge builder's honor," Jin stated as they walked through the door of the old house. "Considering it's still morning here, I think it would be a good idea to look through town and see what's going on," Ranjiku suggested. "That seems to be the most logical thing to do, me and Haim-chan will go and search the bridge for information, you and Jin should go and search in town for information," Ulquiorra suggested. "I was thinking the same thing, we'll meet up here at sundown at the latest, let's go," Jin said before him and Ranjiku shunpo it away. "You can't use a speed technique, so we will walk," Ulquiorra suggested before Orham just appeared in front of him by use of shunpo. "I use my new Byakugan to see how much Ryatsu it would take and where to apply it, I can use it now, so let's go," Orham said before using shunpo and speed away forcing Ulquiorra to have to catch up. When he did catch up and stopped next to her, it was at a sight that disgusted him, in place of the great Naruto bridge, was the almighty Sasuke path. Every so often on the path, in the middle of the path, was a statue of the Uchiha himself, looking as arrogant as ever. People were walking by and you could tell who was from Nami and who wasn't, those not from Nami was looking on with wonder and awe, while those from Nami ignored the statues with disdain in their eyes. Ulquiorra decided to ask one of them from Nami instead of someone from Not, but first, Haim-chan, we will need to use our shinobi training for information gathering. "Of course, I remember everything from it, I'll follow your lead," Orham stated as they searched for a good informant. They finally found one that seemed to be from Nami, the man they stopped looked to be someone in their mid-40s, with a few grey hairs and dark eyes wearing a merchant attire. "Yes, what can I do for folks? We were wondering what happened to the great Naruto bridge, we visited here 2 years ago, but we've been traveling since, what happened?" Orham asked, feigning ignorance. "Ah, yes, that, well you see the Leaf once came here to protect a bridge builder named Tezuna, out of all of them though, the one that inspired its people to fight against a gang boss by the name of Gato, was Naruto-sama. He became a great hero to this country and in return, asked for nothing, but Tezuna decided something was needed and so the bridge he built was named the Great Naruto Bridge. Then around, oh, I say almost 2 years ago, the Leaf came back with a slightly bigger group this time and forcefully changed the name to the almighty Sasuke path. Also took 2 grave markers from enemy shinobi that earned Naruto-sama's respect," the man informed. "Thank you for the information," Ulquiorra thanked as he took a look around again and saw that actually, they were separated in Nami-born people and foreigners. "Hey, you," another man called out from the foreigner's side, "I heard your story and you got it wrong, dead wrong." When they looked they saw a man similar to their informant, except he had less grey. "Why would he be wrong, sir?" Orham asked with a cute tilt of her head to help slow any hostilities. "Well, first off, the person that inspired people to fight wasn't that demon brat, it was Sasuke-sama, but the demon used demon magic of some type to brainwash people like this guy into thinking it was him because he was weak. That led Tezuna Baka to first name the bridge after the demon, and once that demon was executed, Konoha came here and forced the Baka to rename the bridge. There was a fight, but it didn't take long for the Konoha forces to end the fighting and rename the bridge," the man explained. "I see, thank you for the explanation," Ulquiorra respectfully said while holding back his anger and power from leaking out. "No problem, you didn't know since some travelers keep to themselves and don't get a lot of news, but try to stay informed, see ya," the man said before walking back to his side. "I suppose you don't believe me now, but what I said is the truth, I just thought you should know," the informant said. "We do believe you, people like that is what me and my husband and I hate the most, have a nice day," Orham said with a small blush at the husband part of their cover before her and Ulquiorra walked away. "Why did you say we were married, a girlfriend and boyfriend status would have been sufficient," Ulquiorra asked once they were out of earshot. "I forgot that you only studied relationships on Earth instead of the elemental nations, but here only married couples travel alone together and that's what you implied to the informant," she replied. "Oh, I see, I think we need to talk to different people though, see if we get any variations of what we heard, that whole different information," he suggested, and that's what they did all day. Tizuna's old place. Ulquiorra and Orham speed to Tizuna's after a long day of information gathering, but once they got there they were met with the sad faces of Ranjiku and Jin. "What happened, is the information gathered by you two that saddening?" Ulquiorra asked emotionlessly once he saw Anne sat on a couch opposite them with Orham to his right. "Yes, it is Gaki, and I'm not referring to Ulquiorra, I'm referring to any part of you that's still Naruto, since this news is for him and all," Ranjiku said from on the couch with Jin on her left. "Listen Naruto, since you went to the bridge and all, you probably already know this, but there was a battle here about 2 years ago, and in that battle, Tizuna and Inari were both killed as leaders of the revolt. Even though Inari was just a kid, Konoha didn't care and put them both to death after the revolt was crushed," Jin informed. "Afterwards, and this is really what gets me, Tsunami, Tizuna's daughter, Inari's mother, was beaten and raped countless times by rogue bandits before slitting her throat," Ranjiku informed. There was only silence in the room as they watched how Ulquiorra processed this information. They watched as the corners of his mouth twitched to go down in a frown. For a moment they thought they saw his eyes go a little wet before going back to normal, and for a whole half-minute, he shook with rage, subtly, but still shook. Finally they saw him take a deep breath before stating, "This just reconfirms my belief that Konoha needs to be destroyed." "I agree fully, but we need to start making a plan on how we're going to do just that," Jin stated. "We can't just go in swords drawn and destroy the place outright, we might be able to if we didn't have allies there, no scratch that, we still wouldn't be able to," Ranjiku reaffirmed. "I have an idea, it does require that we lie quite a bit though, and it may take a little while, but it will be sure that all of Konoha is destroyed," Ulquiorra said. "I haven't heard one of your plans in a while Ulquiorra-kun, I hope it's good," Orham commented. "We go into the village and work with them, and you can surely get what that entails I'm sure," the ranker stated. "Destroy from within, become key figures and make sure that everyone that isn't our ally is dead, I like it," Jin said. "I like it too, but we'll have to say that our powers are Kekkei Genkai so that they won't ask to be taught the spells," Ranjiku figured. "True, but what if we spend so much time with them that they gain enough spiritual elements that they gain them naturally, they only have enough to see us now, but what if they gain enough to do what we do?" Orham asked. "Not to worry, what happened with you and Sato-san came from unique circumstances, you gained what you did thanks in part to your reincarnated soul that always wanted three things in a fight. One is to protect, one to attack, and one to heal, you gained that thanks to all that other stuff with Hayariatsu that you were always around. Sato-san always had that power in him, he just needed to manifest it, I don't know what he is exactly, but it feels similar to a hollow," Jin explained. "That's a relief, then what do we do with our allies, how will they know who we are for real if we all look so different?" she asked again. "Do not worry Haim-chan, I have an ability that allows me to replay my memories by ripping out my eye and crushing it, it's how Aizen learned of you actually," Ulquiorra informed. "Wow, I didn't know you could do that, I actually can't wait to see it, wait doesn't ripping out your own eye hurt?" Orham exclaimed. "Of course it hurts, it's ripping out my own eye, but I can push down the pain because the mission takes priority," he replied. They spent the next 4 hours ironing out the details of their plan for revenge, and after much debate, it was decided that not everyone should go to Konoha. Since Orham refused to separate from Ulquiorra however, and since Ulquiorra was the only one that could overpower everyone else in Konoha, it was decided that Ulquiorra and Orham will infiltrate the village. Jin and Ranjiku will go meet up with Jiraiya and Yugao Yuzuki, Miko Kachan, and join the Akatsuki. "That is enough planning, tonight we should rest and head out tomorrow for each of our destinations," Ulquiorra said once enough planning was done to his satisfaction. The room arrangements were standard, Ulquiorra and Orham got Inari's old room, while Jin and Ranjiku got Tsunami's, Inari's mother, nobody wanted to go near Tizuna's. Next morning. Everyone awoke bright and early the next morning, around 7 or so, they all ate a healthy breakfast, thanks to Orham thinking ahead and pickpocketed a little money for food shopping. She didn't want to of course, but when you don't have anything to your name but the clothes in your backpack, you had to get by. "Thanks for the meal Orham-chan, I didn't think of the food, even if we're just souls here, we still need to eat for our strength," Ranjiku commented. "My pleasure, are you both ready for your part of the mission? It's not going to be easy to convince the Akatsuki to help us and hold off attacking the village," Orham guessed. "I know, but if anyone can, it's the man who talked Aizen into trusting him," she replied while gesturing to Jin. "He didn't trust me completely, but he did enough to tell me the secret to his Zanpakuto, and that in of itself proved to be invaluable. Are you both ready for going back to Konoha?" Jin asked. "Yes, it will be interesting how they react to Ulquiorra-kun once they see how similar he looks to Sasuke team, but I think Ulquiorra-kun pulls off the emo look much better," Orham chirped. I don't know how, I tried to picture the most despairing image I could, and this was the result, though I don't know about how well I pull it off, Ulquiorra stated emotionlessly. Baki, you pull that look off so much better than the team, they might just put you in the craw just from your looks alone, Renjiku commented. If they try it, I'll kill them all, Orham innocently stated, and that in of itself looked creepy to the point where everyone cringed. Fine, I think it's time to head out to each of our locations now, especially before you say anything else to anger my Haim-chan, Ulquiorra suggested. I second that motion, though, my reason is mainly because we really should be heading out, Jin said as he stood from the kitchen table, the others following suit. Let's go then, but do you know where the Akatsuki is located, Renjiku asked her boyfriend. I have an idea of where their leader, and by extension, Jiraiya, might be, and I think they're in Omegakure no Sado, he replied as they all were walking out the door. Very well, I will not know if you made contact with them when you do, so be sure to watch yourselves at least, Ulquiorra advised. If I didn't know any better Gaki, I'd think you cared now, but that can't be right, you only care about one thing, Renjiku mentioned. Nonsense, I just know the strategic value of having you as an ally, rather than as an enemy, therefore I am only tolerating Jin as of the moment, he informed. What about me then Gaki, are you only tolerating me as well, Renjiku pressed. No Renjiku ni, I do remember all of my past so I remember how nice you were to me, therefore you are fine to be around, if only for nostalgia and nothing else, Ulquiorra stated. Gaki's fine with me and not you, Gaki's fine with me and not you, I'm like better than you, she sung as she poked Jin in the face. You two should leave before your constant presence forces me to turn that policy around, the ranker stated, and making the two stop in their tracks in the process. They looked at him, then each other, then they nodded, then looked at him before finally leaving with goofy grins on their faces. Don't be too naughty you two, Renjiku called out before her voice was completely out of earshot. Ulquiorra sighed before looking at Orham, and with a subtle nod, they disappeared through the trees running for their destination, Konoha. Just outside of Konoha. Ulquiorra and Orham came to a stop just outside of Konoha, and had to admit, the village did quite well for itself. More people were coming through the front gates than ever before, merchants were obviously selling their product. Restaurants were obviously busy from all of the traffic, and thus it would be a while before the couple could even see about getting food. I was expecting a little increase of tourists, but not this much, Ulquiorra muttered to Orham. I know, I can hardly believe that all of this stemmed from our execution, Orham muttered back. Let us head in and see about getting a job, never know, I might finally get a rank other than genin, he joked emotionlessly. Are you still bitter about that? I know it wasn't fair, but it was in the past, and I thought you didn't care about anything other than me, she teased. I never said I was bitter, but for someone who had enough power at his disposal to blow up the village, enough brain power that can rival Inara, and stamina that would put both Guy and Lee to shame, staying at genin was pathetic, Ulquiorra said. You're going to demand Jonin, aren't you, Orham deadpanned, but you could see she was enjoying the conversation. If I could, I'd demand the rank of Anbu captain at least, he actually joked again, Orham was having a wonderful time. It's good to have you back, she whispered to him. I don't know what you mean, Ulquiorra said while turning his head to her with a blank look on his face. Before you knew it was me, you used to be so cold and distant unless it was to get a specific reaction from me to report back to Aizen. Then, when you found out who I was and I got my memories back, you were only a little cold to me. So, it's good to see that you loosened up some and can have fun joking around and such, Orham explained happily. I will only do so with you and nobody else, not even with any allies or Nico Kachan anymore, only one thought pulled me through my time as the Hollow of Despair, and that was you, Ulquiorra said. I'm glad that we found each other, let's check in with the guard dogs, and find a place to stay, who knows, might even find an actual house to live in, she wondered. That would be something I could see being enjoyable, he said as he looked over the village he left behind and to one day hope destroy. Chapter 6. To Enter the Leaf. Izumo Kamizuki and Katetsu Hagane were bored out of their freaking minds, sure there was a lot of traffic, so they still had work to do to try and keep them occupied, but it wasn't enough. Not to mention that the goddamn Hokage, Senjutsunade, made them fill out their own bane of all existence, paperwork. The piece meant more paperwork than ever before, and sometimes they wondered if it was worth it to betray that Uzumaki kid, but in the end decided that war wasn't their best interest. Among one of the many people wanting to enter the village was a couple that creeped them out a little, a man and woman. The man was slightly taller than the woman, standing at 169 centimeters tall, with the woman standing at 157 centimeters tall. The man had black shoulder-length hair with what looked like bone covering the left side of his head, but not obscuring his face at all. He had green eyes and green tear marks coming down both sides of his cheeks and what looked like a white cloak on, so they couldn't tell what was underneath. The woman was arguably the most beautiful woman they had ever seen, orange-red hair that fell down her back like a flowing waterfall of fire pinned with snowflake hairpins at her temples. It was her eyes that drew their attention though, a pale, pupilless lavender that looked right into their soul. She too was clothed in a white cloak, so they couldn't tell what was on underneath. "Hello, we are wondering if we could speak to your Hokage about joining your ninja ranks," the man that came up to them said bluntly. "He was thinking about joining the ninja ranks, I was wanting to go into medical," the woman corrected. "That is fine, you both need to talk to the Hokage then, she has final say on everything so you would need to talk to her," Katetsu informed before summoning the Anbu to escort them. "These are our Anbu, they'll escort you to the Hokage so she can test you out and if you are qualified to be ninja," Izumo explained before watching the strangers leave. "Do you think they have any idea what's going to happen once they get there? There's not a lot of people who get into the village from outside," Katetsu asked once they were out of earshot. "Of course they don't, but that just makes our job all the more interesting when we hear their screams from here," Izumo stated as they took the next one in line. With Ulquiorra and Orham were walking down the street on their way to Tsunade's office to become ninja, again, and this time make sure they do what they should have done, destroy this village. They were, of course, getting some odd looks by some of the people passing them by, others were paying them no attention, but most were staring. They noticed that it was those with experience in the field of being a ninja that were staring, everyone else seemed to look at them, then look away so as not to be noticed. Before long they came upon the tower to the Hokage and entered into it, they didn't really see any point in gazing at what they already knew of. They wordlessly entered into her office and saw a curious sight, Sasuke team was already there with Sakura and two others they didn't know of. One was a boy that had short black hair and very pale skin and a tanto on his back with proper looking ninja gear for stealth. The other one wore the standard Jonin attire with a silver face frame over short brown hair and white unblinking eyes. "Yes, what do you two want?" Tsunade all but yelled at the intrusion, and she had the biggest change, she was pregnant, now that was unexpected. "I think I know, this woman must be my new concubine, I've been waiting for one that looks so healthy, you'll be a fine addition to my court," Sasuke team said before starting to walk up to Orham to touch her. He hadn't really changed much, except now he wore a sword on the back of his hip, same colors, just in different sizes. Just as Sasuke team's hand was about to reach Orham, his hand got grabbed by Ulquiorra, who started to squeeze quite hard on the boy. "That is not why we are here, and this is my girlfriend Orham Inoue, not someone to be used as any sort of consort," Ulquiorra said before releasing the boy by shoving him back a little and earned himself a meaningless glare from the Uchiha heir. "The one that was breaking your arm was Ulquiorra Cypher, my boyfriend and currently the only remaining member of the Cypher clan," Orham stated with fury in her eyes at being looked at by the Uchiha. "Cypher clan, I've never heard of that clan before, where are you from?" the brown-headed man with the face frame asked. "It is only common courtesy to introduce yourself before asking where someone is from, is it not?" Ulquiorra rhetorically asked. "My name is Yamato, I'm the Jonin sensei for Team Yamato, with me is our village's next Hokage and fellow Jonin, Uchiha Sasuke, our team's medic, Haruno Sakura, and our team's long-range fighter, Sai," the brown-haired man introduced. "I'm Chan and I have traveled from the other side of the world, a place called Hueco Mundo," Ulquiorra said emotionlessly. "As you have already guessed, I am the Goddamn Hokage, Senju Tsunade, now what is the reason you have come into my office?" Tsunade asked. "Hokage-sama, these two wish to become members of the village, Oriham-san wishes to become something in medical, while Ulquiorra-san wishes to become a part of our forces," the Anbu stated. "I was just about to assign a joint mission with Team Yamato and a different team, but if this guy wishes to join our ranks, this provides me with a perfect opportunity to test how an unknown variable challenges the team. Team Yamato will fight against Ulquiorra-san here, depending on who wins or how the fight goes, Ulquiorra-san will be granted shinobi status. After the fight, in order to see how far I'll need to have you taught, Oriham-san will heal the wounded," Tsunade explained. "I don't think this will be a fair fight, Hokage-sama, for one we don't know this guy's skill level, well nothing compared to an elite like Sasuke-kun, he's an unknown," Sakura screeched. "How is it that you live in the same village as a banshee and not go deaf?" Orham commented quietly to Yamato. "You get used to it," was Yamato's reply with a shrug and disdainful look to the Uchiha, he clearly was a potential ally in what was to come. "Be quiet Sakura, it doesn't matter at all who the dope is, I'll kill him easily, then take his woman as another concubine for rebuilding my clan," Sasuke ordered and making said girl cower in fear, clearly abused. "Don't get too full of yourself Uchiha, trash is always the ones who bark the loudest," Ulquiorra commented calmly while looking over to said shinobi. "I'm not full of myself if it's fact, and what do you mean trash, I'm an Uchiha elite, the last true Uchiha and the next Hokage, who are you to question me," he replied. First off, being last Uchiha loyal to the village doesn't make you the last Uchiha in existence, nor does it automatically make you an elite to be an Uchiha, and being the next Hokage means nothing to me, since you are not the Hokage now. Who I am to question you is obviously someone who has more common sense than you do, so before questioning me and my reasoning, look towards yourself, Ulquiorra suggested. Enough, you will settle this when you fight in 1 hour at Training Ground 3, but first, why does Orham-san have a variation of the Byakugan? Tsunade asked. We don't know, all we know is that I was born with it. Our guess is that an ancestor of mine had left the village or was marked as Kia, killed in action, and used that as an excuse to leave the village, Orham stated. You wouldn't happen to know the name of your ancestor or any other details that makes your Byakugan a variation, do you? The Hokage asked. Not a clue, just know that I was born with it, but Ulquiorra-kun should go prepare for his fight with Team Yamato, goodbye, she replied back before her and Ulquiorra disappeared in a blur. I want those two-tailed the entire time while in the village. I shouldn't have to tell you this, but I want to make sure the Anbu on them is doubled, Tsunade ordered, an order the Anbu instantly followed. I'm hesitant to pit you against an enemy without prior knowledge of, but the village is getting too complacent with peace. We need to show our strength however small it may be. You can't possibly be suggesting that creep and that bitch could ever pose a challenge for Sasuke-kun, do you? Sakura asked incredulously. Unknowns are always a threat until cleared as dead, loyalty to Konoha is beyond reproach, or not powerful or smart enough to be a threat, Yamato replied like a walking rule book. Like I care, I'll still beat him, nobody badmouths an Uchiha and lives, and mentioning Itachi like that is definitely cause for death, Sasuke said with rage in his Sharingan-blazed eyes. Just take care of it, if they're here to kill you or to hinder us in any way, he'll kill one of you, or try to at least, but if he doesn't, we'll know he's not an enemy. What enemy would throw away the chance to kill you at first strike? Tsunade asked. The dumb one, but I can see the logic to your plan, tell Orochimaru I said it was nice knowing him, you know, if I die before seeing him, Sasuke said with a roaring laughter and Sakura and Tsunade following after him. An hour later at Training Ground 3. Ulquiorra and Orham were waiting at Training Ground 3 for the others to arrive. To avoid suspicion about how they knew where it was, they asked someone they thought might know, Ino. They were just talking with Ulquiorra leaning against one of the 3 stumps and Orham leaning into him with his arms around her as they stared at the sky as Ulquiorra was talking. And that's how I would have killed him if he so much as touched you in that way, trash like that has no business in this world, Ulquiorra said as he just told her how he would have killed Sasuke. I love how you're so protective of me, Ulquiorra-kun. Do you really think you'll need your release form for something like this, though? Orham asked. No I don't, and I guess I never told you did I? I have 2 release forms, my regular resurrection that is like any other Ranker release, and Segunda Etapa. This is, I suppose, an Aranker's equivalent to a Shinigami's Bankai, but with more power behind it, and I'm the only one that can use it, not even Aizen knew about it, Ulquiorra explained. Wow, and you're the first and only one to ever achieve it, talk about the most unpredictable ninja in existence, Orham complimented before kissing him with a turn of her head. After a minute of kissing like that, Ulquiorra had to reluctantly pull away because his opponents arrived with a shout from the Banshee. Why are you here? We've been looking all over for you, so we could escort you here. We asked a blonde girl for directions to the training ground, I think she said her name was Ino, was that a bad thing to do? Orham asked with a cute tilt of her head. Sakura was about to say something, and Sasuke too by the looks of it, but thankfully Yamato stepped in, it's fine, we just didn't think of that, but now that we're all here, let's get ready for the fight. I bet you would have thought about it if Naruto-kun was still with you, Orham thought to herself as she began walking to the sidelines to watch the fight. Let's do this thing so you can learn who your betters are, Sasuke said as him and his team were on one side of the field while Ulquiorra was on the other and Orham was to the side. Very well, trash, Ulquiorra stated as he shed his cloak to reveal his full white Espada uniform with his Zanpakuto at his side, this will be over soon. So you're a swordsman, big deal, I won't even need mine, Sasuke boasted. HN, the Ranker grunted in response before a random stone on the bank suddenly shifted and signaled the beginning of the fight. Sakura was the first to go in with a chakra-charged fist in an attempt to hit his jaw, and in the next second, a huge wave of destruction right in front of her was the result. Like you said, Sasuke-kun, all talk, Sakura commented before trying to retract her fist from the dust cloud that sprang up, trying being the key word. She was struggling with pulling her fist out of the dust and finally quit when she saw why that was as the dust cloud disappeared. Ulquiorra had actually caught that chakra-charged fist with ease, and now he just let go all of a sudden and jumped back. It wasn't until a fire dragon and water dragon crashed into each other that she figured that was the reason. At your head in the fight, Sakura, why did you hold back on that attack? I told you to go full force, Sasuke chastised. I did go full force, yet he still caught it, I don't know how, but he did, and it won't happen again, Sakura screeched. Ulquiorra appeared before her and punched her in the gut with a jab by rotating his fist counterclockwise until it was imbibed into her gut and kept spinning a little to send her flying to the other side of the training field and slamming into a tree. The force was enough to knock her out but not kill her. They didn't want to ruin the plan after just entering the village. Sai was the next to act by swinging his tanto to Ulquiorra's left in an attempt to cut his head off. This was proven negated however when Ulquiorra raised his left hand and blocked the tanto with just his wrist and it didn't even leave a scratch on him. Sai jumped off of him and from behind him, Sasuke came in with a Chidori-covered hand in an attempt to get past Ulquiorra's defenses, like it would be that easy. Ulquiorra just used the same hand he blocked the tanto with and grabbed the wrist of the Uchiha before basically judo, flipping him into the ground and causing the Chidori to go into the ground and negating that attack. Now it was time for the wood user to come into the fight with several wood spears headed straight for him. All Ulquiorra had to do was Sanito to the other side of the training ground to avoid them all. You're light on your feet and you have a strange defensive technique, but this fight is far from over, Sasuke stated as he began to change. Something on the back of his neck glowed a burning red before moving to cover the rest of his body with the markings. When they came to a rest, intricate black markings covered his body. The curse mark, how original for you to use someone else's power, but I don't know why I was expecting anything from an Uchiha thief and the trash that follow him, Ulquiorra said emotionlessly. I'll show you, this is just the first stage, if you want to see all my power, I'll be happy to show you emotionless creep, Sasuke roared before changing his appearance again. His hair grew longer and a lighter shade, the markings on his body got spread out and turned his skin brown and lips black, with what looked to be a star on his nose. The next second is when Sasuke acted by spreading giant wings from his back that were in the shape of hands, and then he did something that the Arrancar heard him say he wouldn't need, he brought out his sword. It wasn't anything special, just a Chikudo, probably durable with elemental incorporating functions, nothing special, not like his Zanpakuto. Sasuke charged the blade with black lightning and made his move by moving at blinding speeds and lunging at Ulquiorra. What Sasuke didn't expect was for Ulquiorra to be so light on his feet that he could use the lunge as a makeshift stand and bring his heel down on the team's head. After that was a series of quickly placed jabs to Sasuke's body that stunned the guy to the point of passing out. I never thought I'd see the day that Sasuke-sen was taken down so easily, this guy is truly a monster, Sai commented from beside Yamato in a ready stance. Believe it, this is no mere ninja wannabe, this is an honest Akami demon in the form of a human, not even sure that Kakashi-senpai could have taken him on, Yamato commented also in a ready stance. Are you done with this, or do you still wish to fight, Ulquiorra asked, while raising his Ryatsu a little to show how futile their efforts are. I think the point has been proven that you're more than capable of becoming a Konoha shinobi, I'll go make my full report after I see the Ana heal Sakura and Sasuke, Yamato suggested. Very well, lay them side by side together on the ground, I'll heal them then, Orham ordered, and Sai and Yamato did what was ordered carefully, there could be damage that they couldn't see. Sasuke was on the left, back to normal looking, and Sakura was on the right with quite the few bruises already forming from the impact with the tree. Once they were side by side, Orham whispered, Soten Kissen. Watashi wa Kaizetsu Suru, and a golden half-sphere formed around the two annoying teens and began to heal. Yamato was amazed at this, he never saw a jutsu that could heal someone like this, she didn't even need to do a diagnostic with this jutsu, just heal them both as if nothing happened. Sai was mentally filling out a report to submit to Danzo, to be able to do this type of healing would mean a leg up for Root if anything goes down, and having Ulquiorra on their side would help immensely. Orham finished up on the healing while taking a little more than the injuries, she not only rejected their injuries, she set their whole selves back a little. She sent Sasuke's Sharingan back to 2 Tomo, instead of the third one he gained while fighting Naruto at the final valley. She decreased Sakura's chakra reserves drastically, this would easily decrease the amount of strength that she could produce. What hit me, I feel like I just went toe-to-toe with a cage, Sakura groggily said as she sat up. How did you get so strong, I demand that you teach me, then I'll give you the honor of my acknowledgement, Sasuke demanded of the victor. You are in no position to make any kind of demands of me, Ulquiorra stated from where he stood beside of Orham with his hands in his pockets and a kind of bored expression. I can make any kind of demand of you that I wish, since you won, you are now a Konoha shinobi, but since you don't have a rank yet, I can order whatever I wish of you, the Uchiha roared with a glare. Actually, it isn't official until the Hokage gives the okay, and even then, he could still be ranked higher than you, since he beat you quite easily, Sai stated and made the Uchiha's blood boil, and making Ulquiorra almost smile. I don't need your opinion, Root grunt, and he will not be put higher than me, an Uchiha elite like me cannot be lower than an outsider, Sasuke roared before hearing a bird fly off and in the direction of the Hokage's tower. Well, I just sent the information to the Hokage to review, it will be reviewed fully by the time we get there, we'll know then, Yamato said with a smile. Sasuke-kun will always be highest, this guy must have cheated or something, drained our chakra before the fight began or something, there is no way Sasuke-kun could lose otherwise, Sakura screeched. I didn't sense anything out of the ordinary from him while fighting, something like you're talking about would have been sensed, so that isn't the case, Yamato informed. It doesn't matter, let's just head back to the tower so we can prove to the newbie that I will always be his better, Sasuke suggested as they began walking to the tower, the entire walk was going to be in silence. Hokage Tower. Team Yamato was filed into the Hokage's office in order from left to right. Yamato, Sai, Sasuke, Sakura. Ulquiorra and Orham were beside Yamato with Ulquiorra directly to the man's right and Orham to Ulquiorra's left to keep her even further away from Sasuke. Team Yamato was standing at attention, as was Ulquiorra since he had been trained in this sort of thing, but Orham, to keep up appearances, was a little lax. I have reviewed the details in the report of both the fight and the healing, as well as the separate report the Anbu who watched the fight reported in, and I'm impressed. Not everyone can best Sasuke-san like that, and even fewer can do it in the amount of time you did, so it is with great pride that I welcome you to our forces, Tsunade announced, while giving them each a hit I-8. They were both blue and did give them a nostalgic feeling, but one thing wasn't right, they were both getting one. Hokage-sama, why are we both getting one? I thought I would be going into medical, Orham asked. From the reports, your healing jutsu would best be used in the field on missions, and from how protective he is of you, Ulquiorra-san is going to be on your team. Ulquiorra-san will be given the rank of Jonin due to his high ability, your team will only be a two-person squad for various things, and since Orham-san has the Byakugan, fighting can be one of them. Do either of you have any questions? Tsunade asked once she made her announcement. Do you have one in white with a longer tie around it? Ulquiorra asked, while gesturing to his hit I-8 that was navy blue, not at all his colors were black or pale white. I would like mine in black if you have it, Orham added in with a smile, while gesturing to her hit I-8. Actually, yes I do, many shinobi don't like the standard navy blue, so I keep an assortment of different colors with me just in case, Tsunade said while opening a drawer and pulling out what they asked for. Ulquiorra put his on around his forehead like he used to and pulled it tight around his head so it fits snugly on. Orham put hers around her neck, not tight enough to choke her, but made the knot tight enough to where it wouldn't fall off. Both placements were like they used to wear, Naruto like any other shinobi, and Hinata wore hers around her neck as well. Well, now for housing assignments, Ulquiorra-san, that was as far as Tsunade got before she was interrupted by said ranker. Housing assignment, me and Haim-chan will be living together, Ulquiorra stated as he raised his Ryatsu a bit to show he was serious. Very well, since that's the case, and I expect you won't need much room, you will be staying at an apartment complex that has just recently gotten refurnished, she said before pulling out and handing Ulquiorra a familiar style key. This was the keys to his old apartment given to him by the Sandaime Hokage once he was kicked out of the orphanage. Thank you very much Hokage-sama, we shall head out and get moved into our new living quarters, Ulquiorra said emotionlessly and without flaw before walking out into his old new apartment with Orham in tow. Did you foresee that happening Ulquiorra-kun? Orham asked once they were out of earshot of the Hokage Tower. No, but this just means we must be careful, there could be traps for us once we get there, so let's act as if nothing is out of the ordinary, he said, and she nodded. Chapter 7. Mission Assignments. Ulquiorra and Orham were walking to Naruto's old apartment, with each step they could start to see more and more of their old class around the village. Shikamaru and Temari were walking side by side and seemed to be coming in their direction, and having to keep up appearances they decided to stop them to ask. Excuse me, could you both point us in the direction of the newly renovated apartments, we're new here and just joined your ninja corps and don't know our way around yet, Orham asked. Sure, just go straight until you see a building taller than all others except the Hokage Tower, the building to its right is what you're looking for, Shikamaru answered. Thank you, I'm Orham Inoue, and this is Ulquiorra Cypher, thank you for directing us, she stated with a small bow. No problem, my name's Shikamaru Nara, this blonde woman beside me is Temari of the Sand, Shikamaru introduced himself and Temari. Pleasure, Ulquiorra stated for his greeting, he wasn't paying much attention at them for the moment, too focused on the Anbu that was following them to care, though he would never show that he knew. Well then, I guess you two want to get settled in, and I still need to escort this troublesome woman around the village for the Chunin exams, see ya, the Nara said in goodbye. Let us go as well, the ranker suggested before him and Orham started to walk back to their new, if not slightly used, apartment where they would hopefully be safe. When they finally got there, it looked just how Ulquiorra remembered it being, before it was vandalized when the Sandaime Hokage announced to everyone where he lived without him knowing it, or so he thought. It looked to have been improved as well, on the outside at least. Many of the broken windows had been repaired and there came the distinct smell of bleach. More than likely they thought a thorough cleansing of the place upon his death was the best thing to do. Ulquiorra briefly wondered if they sprang any of his traps that he left behind. I hope the inside looks as nice as the outside, Orham wondered out loud to draw back in his thoughts. He nodded and they headed inside, up the stairs, and finally got to a wooden door that used to house him. They unlocked the door with their key and stepped inside to find quite the surprising sight. The apartment seemed to have a good-sized hall once they entered it. At the end was an opening to only go left. When they did they saw an open area with one window, a couch beneath it with a coffee table in front of the couch. From their position they could see the kitchen. It was a simple thing with the basics: stove, oven, sink, fridge, cabinets, drawers, and microwave, the basics. Between the kitchen and couch area was a dining table, a standard 4-person dining table, all a nice and fine shade of matching wood. The bedroom door was to their left and up a bit. When they stepped through it, they found a bed with a single nightstand beside that and a dresser in front of the bed. Inside the room and to their left again was the door to the bathroom. To the left was the toilet and sink with toilet on the right and sink on the left. To the right of the door was the bathtub, drain in the corner, black shower curtains and standard shower head. All in all, their new home was quite a good little and quaint place, with the only thing missing is some supplies, and they'll be good. Orham went straight to work and activated her Byakugan to see if there were any seals in place that would allow Konoha to spy on them. She searched all throughout the apartment and found none. There are no spy seals of any kind in the apartment, only thing we need to worry about is the Anbu on the building opposite of this one watching us, Orham relayed. Good, we should put our stuff away and head out to fill our stomachs at a restaurant for now, later we can buy some groceries, Ulquiorra suggested. We won't need to buy any groceries for a little while, I took the food I bought and figured we could use it, she said before starting to pull more things out of her back than should be able to fit in there. How are you doing that, do your powers allow you to expand things as well, he asked, still unsure of how she's doing that. No, actually I put some storage seals inside my pack back at Tazuna's house. I found out just by accident that I can still use chakra, only on a much smaller scale than before, mainly just storage and such, Orham stated. Once she was finished getting everything out of the pack, she went to work putting it all in the proper places, first the kitchen. I never even tried, but I doubt I'll be able to, being dead already does have its disadvantages, Ulquiorra commented from beside the table, as not to get in her way of putting things away. Don't feel too bad, it's not much of anything, I just figured I should try and all, found that I can obviously still see chakra, can mold chakra to the point I can do something like make storage seals, and that's all, she informed. Good, you can be in charge of expanding the storage space for more clothing, I doubt that simple dresser is going to hold much of anything, how much money do we have on us, he asked. I pickpocketed enough to buy a full house if needed, Orham said with a smile, while Ulquiorra gained a sweat drop on the back of his head as Orham finished with the kitchen and went to put the cloths away in the bedroom. In any case, we should use the money wisely in buying foods, and to keep you happy, we can buy any ingredients you require for some of your odd food meals, but nothing too out there, Ulquiorra offered as he followed her. Deal, now I think you should know about something to do with the Hijyoku. During the fight between Kurosaki-san and Grimjo, I finished severing the link fully between the Hijyoku and Aizen-sama. Apparently the Hijyoku is a living entity because it gave me a wish for what I had done. I wish that only you as Ulquiorra's cipher or as Naruto Uzumaki could bear a child with me, she announced. You mean to tell me that even though I am technically dead, I am still able to conceive a child with you? This is actually good news for 2 reasons. One reason, and the most important, is that we get to have a family with one another, that in of itself is a wonderful blessing. The second reason, and this is important for a different reason, Konoha cannot use you to donate eggs to be attempt to be fertilized by that Uchiha, he surmised. You said attempt, why did you say attempt? It's as if you know that Sasuke team couldn't have gotten Tsunade pregnant or something, I figured it was his, Orham questioned. The baby inside of Tsunade's stomach is not the Uchiha's, I know because when we fought for the last time at the Valley of the End, I used Kurama's chakra to destroy his reproductive system beyond repair. He must have never got that checked out because he thought that he was too great to ever have his reproductive organ destroyed in that way, Ulquiorra guessed. Wow, so, who's the father to the baby inside Tsunade? Do you think she met someone else in the 2 years since we've been gone? She asked. I don't know, could be possible, but trying to discover the father at this stage without further data is impossible and unneeded, so instead we focus on what we can, like if you made a cover story for the information about the Hijyoku's gift to you, he asked. I did, I'm going to say that in Hueco there was a genetic jutsu bomb went off to make the reproductive DNA of all its inhabitants, only able to reproduce with each other, and no outside clans. The terrorists that set the bomb off though, they only found one clan outside of Wako Mundo, worthy enough to reproduce with one of us, the Uzumaki, Orham informed. That's a good plan, a bit extravagant for my taste, but it fits on some level with what happened when hollows are formed, our entire reproductive system changes as well. Meaning that only other hollows can reproduce with other hollows, you're the exception, and the only other being from Wako Mundo here is me, so if they test me, the same results are present, Ulquiorra explained. Orham finished with the clothing and decided that they needed to get bed sheets, since the bed was bare and they didn't have any. She was about to voice this when there was a knock at the door. They went to answer it with Orham opening the door. It was an Anbu with an ox mask. "Hello, what can I do for you?" she asked. "I'm here to inform Orham-san that her presence has been requested by the Hokage, and only her presence," Ox informed before disappearing in a swirl of leaves. "Looks like I'll be explaining the bomb sooner than what I thought, go out and buy some sheets while I go see the Hokage," Orham ordered. "Very well, but raise your Riatsu if you feel that you need any help, I'll be sure to be there as soon as I can, I love you," Ulquiorra stated before kissing her on the lips. "I love you too, and don't worry, I can still take care of myself you know," she said before walking out the door and heading to the Hokage's office. Hokage's office. Orham walked into the Hokage's office to see not only the Hokage, but Shizune and all of Team Yamato as well. She wondered what was going on before she found her answer when Tsunade spoke before her question. "I have your first solo mission all ready to go. From the data we've gathered from your Kekkei Genkai, we would like to replicate your power and combine it with the Sharingan from Sasuke. Since you don't seem the sort of person that would cheat on their spouse for any reason, I'll ask that you donate some eggs that can be fertilized by his sperm." Orham scratched the back of her head and laughed awkwardly before she spoke. "Actually, that can't happen, you see, a few years ago there was a certain bomb in Wako Mundo where a terrorist group actually changed our reproductive genetics." "What do you mean change your reproductive genetics? You mean to say that you think you're better than me, an elite Uchiha?" Sasuke said in outrage. "No, the terrorist group actually thought that the people of Wako Mundo was superior to all, so they detonated a new experimental genetic jutsu bomb. This allowed them to rewrite the genetic makeup of the entire country. Long story short, the only way that I can reproduce is with Ulquiorra-kun, and he is the only one I would ever want to reproduce with actually, so that's another reason. The point is that only people from Wako Mundo can reproduce with one another, which is why we usually keep to ourselves and prefer isolation," Orham informed. "Terrorist groups like that have at least one exception. Was there any clan that you can think of that was the exception? With any luck it was a powerful clan," Shizune guessed to help the situation. "Well, there is one clan, can't think of the name though, I do know it starts with a U though," she replied while taking on a thinking pose as if searching her memory. "The only clan that exists that starts with a U that I can think of is the Uchiha clan, so I was right in my thinking, we are compatible for reproduction," Sasuke said in triumph. "No, it wasn't the Uchiha clan, I do remember a Z after the U though, what was it?" Orham said as she pretended to think, and then she decided to announce it. "Aha, it was the Uzumaki clan, that was the only clan compatible to us." There was a tense silence in the air as they all stared at her with wide eyes and slack jaws. Well, the women had wide eyes and slack jaws, Sasuke had rage on his face instead. "I refuse to believe that the Dobes clan was more special than that of the Uchiha, you must be lying, the only way is to test it, go ahead and donate an egg anyways, I'll prove that the Uchiha are special," Sasuke roared. "Fine, set up an appointment for the donation and testing, then I'll go so you can be proven wrong, but until then, drop the subject," she ordered with a dangerous tone. "That will be acceptable, and if what you say is true, that means that the only person in the village you can reproduce with is Ulquiorra-san, because at one point we had an Uzumaki here with us. He was found out to be a traitor though, killed along with an accomplice of his that he brainwashed into following him as a doting sex slave. We extracted as much sperm from him as possible, sent most of it to Kiri as peace bargaining chips, along with a sword, but we kept a little of it in case it came in handy. There was a break-in at the hospital though, some junkie wanting to get a good fix, he was caught, but not before a scuffle broke out. In the scuffle, he got into the room where we store the sperm we've collected, one thing led to another, and eventually a fire broke out in the room that destroyed the sperm. So, the only way we're going to have a super baby is if we reverse what happened to your genes, which could take years that you don't have. Which means that you and Ulquiorra-san should get started so that we can have more time to look into your genetics," Tsunade informed. Just then, a woman burst in wild saying, "It's an emergency, got him, we just received a high priority message from Suna, this is the decoded message," the woman stated as she handed a paper to Tsunade. Tsunade read the message, as did the others that were in the room over her shoulder. When she was done she was beyond serious. Son Agaku's Kazekage was taken away by the organization known as the Akatsuki, Tsunade informed Orham, that didn't go over to read what the message said. Orham immediately raised her Ryatsu so Ulquiorra would come to her position. He appeared in a matter of seconds. "What is it, Haim-chan? Did someone threaten you?" he asked with narrowed eyes. "No, the Kazekage has been taken by the Akatsuki," she informed emotionlessly to him to stress how serious this was. "We've got a lot of information about the Akatsuki. We also got a call for aid from Suna as well. There seems to have been heavy injury as well, so this will be a joint mission. Ulquiorra, Orham and Team Yamato will be going to Suna to heal any injured and rescue the Kazekage from the clutches of the Akatsuki. You leave in 30 minutes. Dismissed," Tsunade ordered. Ulquiham's apartment. Ulquiorra and Orham sped straight to their apartment to pack a bag to take with them before Orham decided to speak. "I thought Jin said the Akatsuki had a new goal. Why are they targeting Jinchuriki if they aren't on their original goal?" "I don't know, we need to find out what's going on, and fast," Ulquiorra stated as he helped Orham pack some supplies before the both of them got a strange sensation. "Ulquiorra, Orham, I know you can hear this so listen up," the voice of Ranjiku sounded in their heads. "It must be a Shinigami's Kido for this to happen. Me and Jin arrived at one of the Akatsuki's hideouts, and get this, the Akatsuki have been split in two groups, one called just the Akatsuki and another called the Neo-Akatsuki. The Akatsuki members are those that want peace through, I don't know how you'd call it, honorable methods I guess. That group is comprised of Pain the leader, Konan, Jiraiya, Yugao, Jin, myself, and Itachi Uchiha, who revealed the truth of the Uchiha massacre to us. It was ordered by the Sandaime because the Uchiha clan were planning a coup. The Neo-Akatsuki are made up of Tobi the leader, Deidara, Haiden, Kakuzu, Kisame, Sasori, and Zetsu. The Neo-Akatsuki want to use the Bijuu to force the world into submission. The Akatsuki itself has found that it wants to grow in understanding one another. That's all for now, I'll keep in touch with any new information. Till then," she cut the Kido that held her message, and everything was silent in their heads. "Well, that explains it. We should keep this information to ourselves though. Explaining how we got it would be too troublesome if we just presented this information to the Hokage," Ulquiorra suggested. "I agree, let's go, and before I forget, is it possible to use Mursai Lago, since he was a Bijuu, to connect with the Ichibi and release the seal that keeps Gaara docile?" Orham asked. "That was actually my plan, thought it was implied, but it's nice that you're confirming it for yourself," he commented before they sped to meet with Team Yamato for their joint mission. Chapter 8. The fight for Gaara. Ulquiorra and Orham got to the front gate using Sanito and Shunpo and wordlessly nodded to their team for this mission. They all wordlessly left after words from the Goddamn Hokage. Team Yamato took the lead for the mission, while the two hung in the back. They moved through the trees as fast as they could. Instead of using bursts of chakra like the others though, they could only use their Ryatsu to move through the trees. They had to make sure not to use too much so they wouldn't break the branches or go too fast to seem too eager. Along their way they spotted Temari walking down a dirt path. Clearly, she hadn't heard the news, which is why Sakura called out, "Temari-san," before they all dropped down before relaying the situation to her. She was shocked. "There's still 2.5 days between here and Sunagakure, we must hurry," Yamato commented, and Temari nodded. This wasn't the time to walk home. She must either be putting on a show or she really did care about what happened to Gaara. They jumped through the trees as fast as they could without exhausting themselves. Temari was with Ulquiorra and Orham in the back, while the others were ahead, but soon it became dark and found a spot to rest for the night. It wouldn't do any good to keep going and exhaust themselves before they even reached their target location, so they made camp and set a fire for a quick meal as well. Sasuke and Sai were arguing about something trivial, while Sakura and Yamato watched. Ulquiorra and Orham were rolling out their sleeping bag for two and was about to prepare for some rest when Temari came over to them. "I need to talk to you two alone," she said and walked off, must be wanting them to follow her, so they did. When they caught up to her, she was in a clearing and they saw an impossible sight. She had a Quincy bow drawn and looked ready to fire. "Tell me right now why I shouldn't kill the rancor and take out the human girl as well, especially since you don't belong here." The two were shocked, though only Orham had shown it. Not only was Temari a Quincy, she knew what an rancor was. They wordlessly debated telling her the truth, but when Orham nodded her head to Ulquiorra, they decided to tell her. "In life, I was known as Uzumaki Naruto, and before she was reincarnated, she was known as Hyuga Hinata. We came for our vengeance," Ulquiorra said, and Temari widened her eyes before she evaporated her bow and sent it back to a small bracelet she had. "And Uzumaki always keeps his word. That saying has traveled everywhere this last couple years. Some had a theory you'd come back, some executed because of it. Those that knew had this planned for a while. I'm one of those few that knew you'd be back. Kuro and me have been close to Gaara since you helped him. Then the council made him into a docile little figurehead to help further their own agendas, so I'll help you take them down, as long as you get Gaara some help. I can't stand what they've done to him." However, I knew it would be almost impossible to get Gaara out without help, so me and Kankuro chose to stay by his side as best we could instead, and I guess you're using the infiltration method to take down Konoha, Temari said quietly as she walked over to them. You have our word that we'll help him, we were already planning on it, but we promised to help you out, and yes to that last one, Orham informed, she knew there must have been a reason the other two didn't do something, or at least she hoped. Now for our questions, why is a Quincy here, are Gaara or Kankuro Quincy's as well, or is it just you, Ulquiorra asked, the emotionless part creeped her out to be honest, and being matched up with someone as bubbly as Orham seemed to be, just strange to her. All those who have died here have a chance to be sent to Hueco Mundo or Soul Society, the opposite is true for those souls, you either have to have died extremely violently, or in the act of protecting someone to be sent to this land. I know of only 2 who have been sent here, that includes myself by the way, the only other person I know of is Narashikamaru, he was a Shinigami that was taken over by a hollow, then had to be killed by one of his subordinates, his name was Shibakayan. I knew a member of his family when I was alive, I was a Quincy of the Kurosaki family being taken care of by the Ishida family, my name was Masaki Kurosaki, Temari announced, and it was at this point that both Ulquiorra and Orham paled visibly. Orham because she met Kurosaki-san's mother again before him, the boy seriously had no luck whatsoever, Ulquiorra because the boy was too overpowered, Shinigami powers, Quincy powers, and Hollow powers, this boy needed to be put down or controlled. Do you remember me then, I'm Inoue Orham, me and Arasawa Tatsuki were childhood friends of your son, Kurosaki Ichigo, Orham mentioned, and that must have made something click for Temari, now she recognized the girl from before. This is so confusing, with the time frames out of sync, me and Shikamaru-san must have been thrown into the past a little ways, how's Ichigo-kun, or the rest of my children, Temari asked, she may have died and have a new family, but she still cared. Last time we saw them, they were doing fine, Ichigo may have been a little beat up from trying to rescue me when I wasn't really a hostage and fighting Ulquiorra-kun's allies at the time, but he's still among the land of the living, Orham answered, leaving out some other details. That's good to hear, I was worried for a second when I noticed you didn't come with him, I would have thought that he'd be your boyfriend with the way he was, Temari commented, she must be having fun talking about the past like this. I think he is the one with the crush on me, but I don't like him like that, maybe as a friend, but not as someone that I could spend the rest of my life with, or forever as the case may be, Orham commented as she hooked arms with Ulquiorra with a content smile. Something about your story doesn't add up though, Kain was taken over by that hollow, but that hollow was taken in by Aroniero, the 9th Espada, how can Kain be here when he was taken over by Aroniero, Ulquiorra asked, it was a valid question. You probably don't know this, but one soul can never take over someone else's, not really anyways, maybe controlled temporarily, but never fully taken over, what the 9th Espada had in his possession was actually an imprint of the soul, something made from the memory of the soul, Temari stated while gesturing to her mind. That is quite surprising that you knew that and I didn't, regardless, I think it would be wise if only you and Gaara knew who we really were, having more people know puts the rest of the plan into danger, I trust that you will not inform them, Ulquiorra stated with a slight, very slight, narrowing of his eyes. I figured, let's head back, they might be wondering where we are by now, Temari said, she seemed a bit more chipper when they did make it back, more than likely due to having knowledge about the children she left behind, but nobody noticed, too caught up in what they were doing. Come morning, they began the travel to Suna again, and at night, they set up camp for some rest, and then in the morning they head out again, it was on that day that they finally arrived at the edge of the desert, before Temari took the lead and the rest followed. It wasn't until a sandstorm was about to hit that they stopped for shelter, everything was quiet, except for the sound of the Uchiha starting to get antsy, come on, I don't need an ally like the sand to lose their leader, I don't need Gaara to die, he commented. When you encounter a sandstorm, the rule is to stay where you are, inside a sandstorm you lose all sense of direction, you hear a lot about people wandering in the desert who don't come out alive, but don't worry, the sandstorms of this season don't last long, Temari informed. I need this to be over now though, Sasuke stated while only getting antsier, but he should keep his cool, it's pointless to get anxious over things out of your control, when the sandstorm leaves, they would leave, but not before then. As soon as the sandstorm let up, they were on the move, it wasn't long before they saw Sunagakure in the distance, it wasn't hard to miss with such a large stone structure around it, they stopped outside of the structure where 2 guards were stationed. We've been waiting for you, and it seems Temari-san was with you too, eh, well, come, it's this way, one guard said, and ushered them to the hospital where one of the guards informed Temari of something else that happened that they didn't know about. Kazekage-sama was taken away, and Kankuro Dono went in pursuit, also, he was inflicted with the enemy's poison, and without finding a way to counter it, at this rate he'll die very quickly. Damn, Tamari cursed before they sped up their pace and reached the hospital a lot quicker before Sakura went to work examining Kankuro. It was a type of poison that was homemade, but it did have a similar composition as that of one of Sailaporo's poisons. Orham was able to cure the poison, but letting them know that is something they didn't need to know, and she wanted to help, she truly did, but letting Konoha think her rejection power had its limits was too big of an advantage to let go of, and Tamari understood this. There were plenty of other injured people though, so Orham got to work rejecting their injuries and doing her part of the mission, while Ulquiorra kept watch and made sure she took a rest when she got too tired before she went back at it again. After everything was said and done, Sakura healed Kankuro and Orham healed all the Suna shinobi. All that was left was to track down the members of the Neo Akatsuki that took Gaara and rescue him, and with Bisquissa, Ulquiorra got their trail. It was nighttime at the moment though, so they needed to rest and start out again at full strength for the others, but for him and Orham, they could go a few days without sleep, but the enemy would have an advantage at night with traps, so they rest then head out. The next morning, they woke up and got ready to leave when they were joined in by an elder of the sand, Chio, Team Yamato, and Ulquiorra and Orham set out at top speed, not top speed for the last two, but top speed enough to not draw attention to themselves. After they had been traveling for some time, they finally came to a stop in front of a large boulder behind a wooden gate. The boulder looked to be sealed, but they weren't the only ones there. Team Guy consisting of Guy, Rock Lee, Niji, and Tenten were there as well. "You're late, Captain Yamato. Who are these new people with you?" Guy asked while eyeing the strangers a little warily. He seemed more depressed than what Ulquiorra and Orham remember, more than likely driven that way through the death of a rival and such. "These are Inoue, Orham and Cypher Ulquiorra. They are new shinobi to the village, and this is their first mission, and since you're here, I assume you're our reinforcements," Yamato asked. It was a likely guess, this is an important mission. "The old hag is Suna's advisor, Chio," Sasuke said, and looked quite impatient. He was growing tired of so many people coming in and stopping him from showing everyone what the true power of an Uchiha was capable of. "I'll scan what's going on inside," Niji suggested before activating his Byakugan and Orham doing the same. Niji was barely able to make out what was going on inside, but Orham could. Gaara was still having the Shukaku extracted. "I can barely make out what's going on, but there seems to be a person floating around inside of a chakra bubble with another set of chakra coming out of him. There are a few people inside," he informed before turning off his Byakugan. "Then let us get in there before all the chakra is gone," Guy said before he jumped back a great distance and took a running start before taking off and slamming a very powerful fist at the boulder. It did nothing to it and only served to show that he couldn't. "This seems to be a 5-seal barrier, a barrier formed by putting up 5 of these paper with forbidden written on them in various places in the vicinity. To dispel it, we'll need to remove them all at the same exact time," Yamato guessed, accurately as seemed. "I'll find the other 4, Niji stated before using his Byakugan to find the others, about 500 meters east of here on top of a rock, 350 meters to the south-southeast on a tree trunk riverside, 650 meters northeast on a cliff wall, 800 meters southeast in a forest." Ulquiorra thought of a possible faster way. He stepped in front of the group and raised his fist and whispered, "Bala," before a red ball of Reiatsu slammed into the wall. The impact created ripples that displaced the force of the impact to keep the barrier stable. If one were to create a widespread attack, such as a Zero, then they might be able to get past it if the barrier was weak and the attack was strong enough. He pointed a finger at the barrier and thought about doing it, but they didn't need to know all of what he could do. He turned back to the group and seen that they were all staring at him with questioning looks. "I was seeing if what I saw earlier was accurate or not. It seems like the force from any impact gets absorbed into the barrier. We have nothing powerful enough or wide enough to break through." "Nice trick, I didn't even see that, and I had my Sharingan activated," Sasuke noted with narrow eyes. He obviously didn't trust the stranger from a strange land. Now did he like how he got put at a rank the same as him. "Then we'll stick with taking the seals down at the same time. The distance shouldn't be that great to where we can't use the radios," Guy suggested as he brought a radio from his bag, so the rest would have to wait until they were done. Ulquiorra and Orham stood off to the side as they waited for them to get hooked up before Orham whispered to Ulquiorra, "First off, are you sure it was fine to reveal that power to them? I'm not sure they needed to know you could do that." "True, but I needed to test the strength of the barrier, and one of my punches might just break the rock completely. We'd seem even more suspicious then. And how are you standing on water?" Ulquiorra asked once he noticed she was. They shouldn't be able to with their small amount. "I'm using the Reiatsu to act as chakra instead, similar to how Shinigami and Hollows are able to use their Reiatsu to stand on the air. Are you just doing something similar to that to make it seem like you're walking on the water?" Orham asked back and he nodded. My team will take care of the papers, Lee will head for the forest in the northwest, Niji will take the rock to the northeast, Tenten will go south-southeast, and I'll take care of the cliff to the northwest, disperse, Guy instructed before they headed in different directions. It didn't take long for everyone else to take position, Yamato stood just above the seal on the boulder, while Sakura got ready to charge in and destroy it with a single blow, the others were just waiting off to the side. When the waiting was done, Yamato ripped off the seal, and Sakura charged in with a fist raised and struck the boulder with enough force to make it crumble away into chunks of rock that just fell into the water and leaving a gaping hole. They headed inside and saw that Gaara was suspended in the air by a blue ball of chakra and it was sucking away his Bijuu. To disrupt the connection, Ulquiorra fired a few balls at the statue that the chakra was going into. That seemed to reverse everything because all the chakra taken out of Gaara was forced back into his system before he fell to the ground, only to be caught by Orham Shun Rika. Sant and Kessen before it floated over to where they were. No, Deidara, Sasori, get the Ichibi back and kill the intruders, a hologram of who was the apparent leader of the group ordered, the only two real bodies called out with a, "Hi, Madara-sama," before jumping down to take on their foes, the others just watched. Ulquiorra-san, you and Orham-san take Gaara back to the sand while we hold off these two, after you have taken the Kazekage to safety, come back and assist, Yamato ordered, he was the senior, so he took charge, so they nodded and ran off. When they got enough distance between them and those fighting, it was time to get Gaara back to his real self, and not his controlled persona, both stopped and laid Gaara against a rock to where he was sitting, Ulquiorra put his hand on his head. Ulquiorra concentrated as best he could before he was pulled into Gaara's mind and taken to where he was in front of Shukaku, neither of them looked their best, Shukaku looked to be panting and covered in wounds, while Gaara seemed to be in the same shape. "Hello Gaara," Ulquiorra stated, and that made the other two turn to look at him as if he was an enemy. It seems the form of control that they used on him was to make his mind too preoccupied with fighting to realize what was going on the outside. "My name is Cypher Ulquiorra, at least, that is my current name, let me show you who I really am though." He took out his own eye, the other two looked very confused at this, then he walked closer and crushed his eye to dust, that is where his memories played for them. It started with his childhood as Uzumaki Naruto, the beatings, the chases, the near-death experiences, the loneliness and his death, from there it began the creation of who he was today, and ended with how he found Orham. "Uzumaki Naruto, I can't believe it's you, but if you died, then what happened to your Bijuu, did it die with you?" Gaara asked, well, more like panted out, he was still out of breath from fighting something in his mind, but less than he was. "In a way, he was transformed into a different form of power that still resides within me, but how long have you been in here?" Ulquiorra asked, it seemed like he would have tired himself out if he had been in here for 3 years. "Only a few days, but I don't know how much longer we can hold out Gaki," Shukaku stated, he must have had his sight to the outside blocked, their sense of time has been distorted within the space of their inner world. "You have not been stuck in here for a few days, you have been in here for 3 years, well the Suna Council controlled you and turned you into a puppet of a Kazekage, only Temari and Kankuro have tried to help you and are on your side," Ulquiorra informed them. "What, when I get out of here, I'm going to rip them all to shreds, tear them from limb to limb and carve out their insides," Shukaku screamed in outrage, clearly, he hasn't realized that he's never getting free, not for a while at least. "I can release this mental block on your mind, this form of genjutsu should be easy to break, just complicated to cast, when I do, you need to keep playing the part of their puppet. We have a plan to take down this alliance of false peace that they have cooked up, but we need you to be ready to strike, can you do that?" Ulquiorra asked, they both nodded in confirmation, "I'll remove the genjutsu now." He channeled his Reiatsu through Gaara, and in one huge pull, they were both expelled from his inner world and back in the real one, nothing at all changed, Orham was looking on in worry, but felt relief when they both opened their eyes. "Thank goodness you're back, I just got a message saying that Sakura and Chiyo-sama have killed Sasori, while Deidara escaped with both of his arms missing," Orham informed as she and Ulquiorra helped Gaara stand up on shaky legs. "It was by way of an inkhawk, I assume the one known as Sai made it, the one with the fake smile, well hidden fake smile, but fake nonetheless, I only trust him just a bit more than I trust Sasuke team and Sakura." "That is to be expected, remember what Jin told us, our only allies in Konoha right now are the shinobi side of the council, Danzo Shimura and his root Anbu, and the older generation that was with the Yellow Flashes era," Ulquiorra reminded her. "Let's get back to Sona, and when we get back, I'll resume my role as being a puppet of a Kazekage. We also need to have a banquet to celebrate the victory and to say thank you for saving me, old friends," Gaara said before he bowed to them in gratitude. "Oh, there's no need to do that Gaara-san, we were happy to help, plus Ulquiorra-kun needed his actual best friend back, we just did the right thing for everyone, there's no need to bow to us," Orham continued on after that, back to that personality it seems. Does she always do this? Gaara asked and watched as she went from talking about friendship and love to something called a Care Bear and wondering what happened to it, then going from that to talking about My Little Pony. Ulquiorra sighed before explaining, as you can see, we have new personalities that sometimes make unneeded interruptions. On the way here she talked often about her favorite foods involving wasabi paste, then about what the colors of a rainbow means. Hey, I've lived like this for 15.5 years with no memory of who I was, you can't expect me to get it under control with a snap of my fingers, Orham commented with a pouting face before snapping her fingers at the end for effect. True, was all Ulquiorra said before they made their way back to Suna. They took it slow as to make sure Gaara didn't push himself. It took a little longer than they'd like, but they eventually made it to Suna without incident. Waiting at the gates though, were everyone they could squeeze on the ledge of the stone gates to enter Suna. Nobody else made it back yet, but they had very little thought about that, actually, they had no thoughts about that at all. I guess I'm loved as the figurehead, either that, or they have no idea that I'm just being used as a figurehead, Gaara guessed. It was more than likely the second one though, only the higher officials need to know such a thing. They all made their way inside after a quick lineup of every villager outside the wall. After that they waited for the other team to arrive. They finally did after another 6 hours, and by that time they had already had words with Temari, and she told them how Gaara was to act. It wasn't complicated, all he had to do was only respond when spoken to, other than that he was just a drone that did paperwork, let the council have either her or Kankuro hand out missions, and only make speeches or actions given to him by the council. A day later is when they were all set to leave, going home already, you could stay a while, at least another day, you should rest before you go, Temari offered. She actually wanted to talk more with Orham about her family, they talked for a while when they could. We'd love to, but since this Neo Akatsuki was brave enough to directly assault the sand, we need to find out what that means for the old Akatsuki and why they're having a civil war amongst themselves, Yamato stated. They got the information from Sasori. The large group made their way outside and started back to the village slowly. Ulquiorra and Orham wondered why before Yamato and Guy stopped the group before they officially entered into the High no Kuni. Before we go any further, I need to relay to you some other information that was given to us before Sasori was killed. He said that he has a spy on Orochimaru-sama. They were to meet at Tenchi Bridge in what is now 9 days. Not all of us will be going of course, and since my team is better for missions like these where we need to gather intel, we'll most likely be going. As for Ulquiorra-san and Orham-san, you two did well for your first mission, I'll be sure to report that to Tsunade-sama. The two mentioned nodded in acceptance before they officially began their actual travel at a fast pace to get back to the village, but something plagued the two's minds. Yamato mentioned Orochimaru as Orochimaru-sama, did that mean he was let back into the village? This did not bode well, not with so much information that they could have used to their advantage now in their hands. They could have used the fact that there were now two different Akatsukas to their advantage. Now Konoha had information that was better off kept to themselves. They would have to think over these things on their way back to Konoha and then think over it some more when they got back. Only one thing was for certain though, after everything that has happened over the last few days, this was getting to be troublesome. Chapter 9. The Immortal Duo. It's now been a few days since they returned to Konoha, and as predicted, Team Yamato took the mission to get the spy. Other than that, nothing of import has happened yet, and so all that was needed was for them to wait on the team returning from said mission. They didn't have to wait long, only a week before they got back from their mission, and that was when things were made clear, so clear that it was sickening to watch what happened or hear the report. Tsunade wanted Ulquiorra and Orham there, since they might have a related mission. They walked into the Hokage's office and found Team Yamato already there. Not only were they there, Orochimaru and Kabuto both were there as well, and acting like they didn't have a care in the world with being in a village they tried to destroy. Tsunade was sitting in her chair with her fingers interlaced in front of her face. Good, now that everyone is here, I can explain what happened. We received a report that one of the Neo Akatsuki was going to meet with his spy, a spy that was spying on you. This was directed towards Orochimaru and Kabuto. We did not however know who this spy was. When Team Yamato found out it was Kabuto, they almost went off had it not been for their advanced shinobi skills keeping them in check. Later, when Orochimaru showed up and claimed to have followed Kabuto, Kabuto put on an act to catch Sasori, who was being played by Yamato at the time, off guard and kill him. Kabuto didn't get his shot at Yamato to connect, so his life was spared. Yamato, that's your cue. When I was made out to be in the wood clone of Sasori, Orochimaru-sama explained the situation. He had already dispelled the mind control jutsu that Sasori had placed on Kabuto. They were going to work together to kill Sasori and strike a blow to the Neo Akatsuki. When I came out of the armor, I told them that Sasori was already dead and told us that there was a spy amongst him and that it was Kabuto. That is when they informed me of the double agent fact. Yamato informed the two that didn't know the story. Sorry Hokage-sama, but that still doesn't tell us why you've called us here since we weren't on the mission and played no part in any of this, Orham asked her respectfully, even though the revelation that Orochimaru was working with the village was disturbing. You two are here because this incident has given me a good idea, regardless of whether they are Neo-Akatsuki or Akatsuki, you're the current strongest in the village as of this moment, beating Sasuke the way you did proved that much. So, on any mission where any members have been spotted or possibly spotted, you are going to kill or bring back the member alive, Tsunade ordered, and they both nodded, good you are free to go for now, they then turned and left her office. They didn't go anywhere new, mainly back to their apartment for a talk about what they just learned, the walk was short with the use of their speed techniques, Orham was the first to speak, what's going on, I never thought that he'd be back in the village, under any circumstances. I find this troubling as well, and now that I've gotten a good look at his Reiatsu, it feels similar to what is inside of Tsunade's stomach, Ulquiorra stated as they walked to the kitchen, so that Orham could get something to eat, maybe he'd join her this time. Then that means that Orochimaru has been an ally of the village for a while now, even going so far as to become the father of Tsunade's child, I don't like him in the village, or that he's even anywhere near us, she said with a small shudder at some of what he would do. You need not worry, I will never allow him or anyone else to attack you or use you for their own purposes, if anyone ever does, I'll use my full power on them and make them know true despair, he stated dangerously close to a spark of emotion for just a moment. Orham giggled a little bit before speaking, careful, that almost sounded like actual emotion for a moment there, and I've gotten so used to that emotionless face of yours that I'd hate for you to break that so soon, she leaned against him with her breasts on his chest. Foolishness, I would never degrade myself to show emotion like the rest of the human trash in this village, I am far beyond such simple mentalities and foolishness Anna, Ulquiorra couldn't say that he felt no emotion when it came to her, but he could about not show it. Then if I were to move my hands like this, Orham started before roaming her hands under his shirt and roaming his torso with them, you wouldn't show anything you might be feeling, he shook his head no with no emotion, what if I did this to you? She asked before leaning up and giving him a nice and passionate kiss on his mouth, he still held out with the emotionless face, then I guess I need to do something a little extra to get you to show some emotion, she grabbed his arms and led him to the bedroom with a sway to her hips. A few days later. Ulquiorra and Orham could be seen in the Forest of Death, they decided to use this as a training ground so that they could continue to grow stronger, while in the elemental nations, Ulquiorra decided to teach her some combat techniques beyond that of just Hyuga to Jutsu. Relying on your shield for defense is a poor choice, when it was just you being medical, that would have been fine in regard to a defense, but now that you might be going on the front lines, I believe you should learn a few techniques that can be taught to non-rankers. Ulquiorra said as he stood in front of her while in his full Espada uniform, he refused to wear anything else, but he did add on the Uzumaki crest to the back of the attire, I will be teaching you the Hiero and Pesquisa, which is far superior to how you are sensing Reiatsu now. I may see what other techniques I can teach you as well, such as Bala or maybe even Siro, these may be variations of course, but they may be similar in nature to the originals, are you ready, he asked and watched as she nodded yes. Very well, we will start with the easiest, the Pesquisa, this allows you to sense, not only the location of a person, but gauge how powerful they actually are, Grimjo has to meditate for him to pull this off, I can tell at a glance, to do this, you need to send out a pulse that reacts to Reiatsu. That doesn't sound too hard, let me try it, Orham closed her eyes and focused on what he was saying, it sounded like a radar, no, like a sonar, the sonar of a bat that uses echolocation, but how to apply that to her, she wasn't a ranker, but she should be able to do something similar. She sent out a small pulse, the only thing she found was a bug underneath her, she did so again with a stronger pulse and found more bugs, she kept repeating the pattern until she finally got to Ulquiorra and his power was huge, stronger than anything she'd felt from Ichigo. In her surprise she opened her eyes and let loose her concentration, so the Pesquisa dispelled and the backlash gave her brain, for lack of a better word, some fuzz that she needed to shake to get rid of and only a slight headache for her trouble. I see you found my power, but you need to keep concentration on the Pesquisa at all times until it becomes a part of your very being, I've trained with this all my ranker life, but you only have to do so as much as you can, now for the next concept, the Hiero, Ulquiorra stated. For the Hiero, you need to bring your Reiatsu outward and coat your body in it, you applied Reiatsu to your feet to perform the Shunpo of the Shinigami, which is the exact same as the Sanito for the Aranker, this will be similar to that, except, you do not force yourself to move. You must coat your body in it to not only provide a coating to protect yourself, but you must use it to turn your skin as hard as steel, this is can physically show you, Ulquiorra took out a kunai and proceeded to cut his left palm with it before moving and destroying the kunai when he tried with his right. As you can see, my hero is able to stop a kunai with ease, and you saw the way it was able to stop a tanto from Sai, and even was able to grab Sasuke team's Chidori hand with ease. As you grow stronger in Reiatsu, you can add more power and become able to do as I've done, try it now. Orham close kept her eyes open to focus this time and focused on bringing the Reiatsu out and doing what was said. It was easier than one would think, for her arms at least, any further than that wasn't working. The only thing that's hardening is my arms, I can't get anything past that. Do not worry, it is impressive you can do that much, especially since you are a mere human. A ranker are able to use such things instinctively. For a human to be able to do so is a great feat. We will work until you have mastered the Pesquisa and Hierro for now, Ulquiorra ordered. That is what they did every day. They did not have a mission, which they didn't have any for a while. They worked on Orham's Pesquisa and Hierro, and after a week and a half, she was able to apply the Hierro to everywhere except her head. She also made quite the amount of progress with her Pesquisa, able to sense all the way to the edge of the forest of death. The amount of power Ulquiorra had still scared her a bit though. It felt like an endless void of emptiness. She knew he wasn't empty inside, it's just what she sensed. After another half week, she finally applied the Hierro to her whole body, and her Pesquisa was able to reach all the way to the Inyazuka compound a little way past the forest of death. The power that the people in Konoha had was a letdown so far, barely a low-level hollow. It wasn't until 3 days later that they were given a summons to the Hokage Tower and to stand in line with many other shinobi, directly behind Shikamaru and Asuma, and Tsunade had just finished relaying her orders, find those responsible for attacking the fire temple, the Neo Akatsuki. Those are my orders, Tsunade ordered while trying to stand tall in front of them, hard to do with a pregnant belly. She made sure everyone understood by giving a quick scan of the forces. Are there any question? She asked, and Asuma raised his hand. What is it? I believe that Chiriku, a former member of the 12 Ninja Guardians, was supposed to be there. What happened to him? Asuma asked as he took note of his missing friend. The looks that were sent to the ground told him it was not good at all. Chiriku was killed by the 2 Neo Akatsuki members for the sake of Konoha's prestige and above all else, the safety of the fire country. We can't allow the people to move freely. I also want to know what they are after, but these are dangerous opponents. Don't let them leave the country, find them, no matter what, and if you can't capture them, kill them, go, dismissed, Tsunade ordered before the shinobi all jumped from the roof of the Hokage Tower and made their way out from there to search. You two are with us, Asuma's voice called over to them as they were about to jump off as well. They turned to look at said Jonin and Shikamaru walk over to them. My name is Asuma, pleasure to meet you, Ulquiorra-san, Orham-san, we're a squad for this mission, let's go. They didn't even give them time to respond before jumping on ahead, as if nothing was needed to be said. Thankfully, somewhat at least, Shikamaru decided to speak. Been treating me like the others ever since your execution. Won't even play shogi with me anymore. He jumped off as well. Whose fault is that? Orham asked rhetorically as she and Ulquiorra jumped after him. As I seem to recall, you also decided to stand against us instead of doing the right thing. It's no wonder he treats you just like the other senseis treat their students. Like I was going to ostracize myself for standing with you when everyone else was already against you. The life of a shinobi is already tough, and I didn't need any more trouble added onto that by sticking with you and everyone hating me, Shikamaru stated plainly and quietly. Quit the chatting back there you three and pick up the pace, we're starting our search at the fire temple, Asuma ordered, and so they picked up the pace and made it to fire temple before beginning the search, and when they made it there, it was destroyed completely. The monks that were there were from nearby temples and have been helping to dig up the bodies from the rubble. It was a terrible sight, but the only one that was not found was Shiriku, a friend of Asuma's from their 12 Ninja Guardian days. Maybe his core has a high bounty placed on it on the black market. We should check the exchange points closest to this location. We should notify the other platoons to check those locations as well, Ulquiorra offered. It was only logical that may be the case. That seems like our best bet, Asuma said before he prepared messages for the other platoons and sent birds to message them. Alright, let's head to the closest exchange point to us. They were about to leave before the old monk stopped them to say a prayer for their group's safety. They allowed it out of respect before heading out and begin heading to the closest exchange point. It wasn't too far away, in fact, it barely took any time for them to get there going at a ninja's standard pace, and that is when they saw the building. It was a roadside rest point. It had a man sitting on some steps. The man had on a black cloak with a red cloud design on it, complaining about the smell inside that got on his clothes. They planned to take advantage of him being alone and planned a team-based maneuver. Asuma approached from behind the man, and when the man noticed, Asuma threw shuriken at him. The man blocked with a black rope attached to his side before it was launched had impaled the ground where Asuma had formerly been standing, which was all part of Shikamaru's plan. Shikamaru at that moment used his shadow possession jutsu to stop the man before Ulquiorra came in and struck a hole through the man's throat, his own little signature move that almost replicated where Sasuke had stabbed him at the moment of his death. The only one left was this man's partner now, that freaking hurt, the man commented with an almost bored expression. What the hell's your problem? He asked without turning to look at who poked the hole through his throat. He also spoke without any problem, as if he was fine. Who the hell are you people? He asked before taking a look at Asuma, specifically, he was looking at his sash that hung from his waist. That sash belongs to those ninja guardians, damn it, I'm gonna have to go back inside that shithole of an exchange point again. We're shinobi from Konoha, we've been ordered to either capture or exterminate either Akatsuki or Neo-Akatsuki, and since you work in two-man teams, we'd planned on capturing one of you after eliminating the other, but you've got some serious powers, Asuma said before taking out his chakra blades. Well, you guys fucked up on the order, the man said with a smirk before his partner showed up and aimed for Shikamaru, thankfully was able to dodge and get away from the man, but also released his shadow possession jutsu while being chased and forced Asuma to block the other's path. Ulquiorra ripped his hand from the first man and fell back to beside of Asuma and Shikamaru. In that time, the other man mentioned something about money to his partner, Haiden, who told the other man, Kakuzu, to stay out of the fight while drawing a diagram on the ground in blood. I'll take the lead, as soon as you see an opening, immobilize the immortal guy with the shadow sewing, Shikamaru, you can just give me a couple seconds, I'll cut his head off and hopefully keep him from interfering, Asuma suggested quietly to the others. That will not work, you are much too slow, and the shadow sewing is also too slow and lacks the turning speed control needed to take the mid-range fighter on, and I suspect that the trash over there will not interfere with the fight, I shall go, Ulquiorra stated before beginning to walk. Hey, Shikamaru called as he got halfway between the other two and Haiden, you might want to use your Zanpakuto, it might be the only thing that can damage him permanently, being able to cut souls and all, he advised, not really caring if Asuma or the other two hurt him. I see your point, but his soul has been so distorted, I doubt that his Zanpakuto can purify it, he said back as emotionlessly as always, yet he still drew said blade from its sheath and prepared for the fight, which might not be much of a fight, or it could draw out longer than expected. You know, getting punched through the throat like that hurt, God will smite assholes like you who don't understand the pain of others, Haiden stated. There was a tense silence in the air for what seemed like an eternity, then in a flash, Ulquiorra disappeared from the view of everyone. When he reappeared again, he was behind Haiden with his sword about to strike down the man, but the immortal brought forth his three-pronged scythe and blocked the strike with the flat of the blades, nice speed, but you still won't beat me, then came a volley of wild strikes. To anyone else, they would have been too erratic to dodge or block, but to someone who could travel the speed of sound with his Sanito, they were like a snail's pace to him, therefore he was able to block and parry the strikes without any trouble at all. Normally, Ulquiorra would just use his Hierro to block, but he saw the change in Riatsu in the side, it would be able to cut through his Hierro sooner or later, and it's better not to take the chances on how many strikes that would take, so he blocked and parried with his sword. When Haiden fell back to catch his breath, Ulquiorra fell back as well and quickly shot a balla for Haiden's arm, with a red flash the arm was severed and didn't look to be going back on the body anytime soon. When Haiden was distracted with losing an arm, Ulquiorra made another move, this time severing the leg off of Haiden and grabbing it before destroying it with a balla as well. He slowly walked to the struggling body of Haiden as the Akatsuki member tried to get up. When Ulquiorra finally reached him, he swiftly severed the head of Haiden and kicked it to the side uncaringly, that takes care of the loud-mouthed trash, he commented before turning to look at Kakuzu with the same expression, now to deal with you. I think not, despite what I think of the ingrate, I know he's strong, and you were able to disable him in quite the small time frame. I think it would be best if I took my bounty and left. Kakuzu was about to do the smart thing and leave, but that wasn't part of the plan at the moment. As he was about to take a step and go past them, he felt a sting to one of his hearts, then another sting to another one, then a multitude of stings that could only have come from the attacking of his chakra points, but he couldn't sense anyone near him, nor did anyone approach. It wasn't until he began to feel the sting that came with the 64 palms technique did his attacker finally reveal themselves. It was a female Hyuga that had been striking him and didn't come out of hiding until her attack was finished. How, was all he could ask as he coughed blood. I concealed her with something I haven't used in years, called Bakudo number 26. Kayako, then she hit until the correct time to strike at the opponent we weren't going up against, and she did by disabling all your chakra points and paralyzing you as well, Shikamaru informed. Now for the next part, Ulquiorra stated before nodding to Orham, she channeled her Riatsu in her hands and slammed them against the prone form of Kakuzu and sent him flying into the air and in direct line of Ulquiorra's finger, Zero, he said softly, almost a whisper on the wind. A huge red energy beam shot from his finger and into the sky where Kakuzu was, and in a split second, it seemed he was atomized. In a single second, the only thing left of him was the dust that fell to the ground in a light drizzle. "You fucking bastards, I'll kill you all, I'll gut you like fish, and then eat your insides as I sacrifice you to Jashin," Hayden ranted before Ulquiorra kicked his head to where he was knocked out with his face facing down to muffle any other sounds that came from him in case he woke up. That wasn't much of a fight, but I guess we should be thankful for Shikamaru's nice little trick and Ulquiorra's power for that. "What was that power you used, Shikamaru?" Asuma asked the kid. He might not like them as much, but they still shared a good past until recently. In short, Ulquiorra-san is the soul of Naruto, while Orham-san is the reincarnation of Hinata. They've come back for their vengeance. Me and Tamari are the reincarnations of souls that are from another world. That world is dependent on the power of one soul. Since chakra is part spiritual energy, me and her are able to use it to some degree, not like we could in our original bodies of course, but at least enough for her to form a bow and me to use Kido, which is the technique I used to mask Orham-san, Shikamaru explained in a bored way. Asuma was understandably shocked at that, going by his now bug eyes and the cigarette he was about to put in his mouth dropping to the ground. "The only reason we are telling you is because you and the other Jonin senseis are on the list of people we can trust," Ulquiorra stated. "He's right, we need you to gather everyone that's on our side and make ready for any preparations that you might need to make. It won't be long before we decide to act, and when we do, we will move fast and hard, so be ready," Orham advised as she and Ulquiorra started walking. Shikamaru came up to stand beside a still gaping Asuma. "By the way, I'm the only one out of my generation in Konoha that is with them. All the others meant what they said on the day of their execution. I just chose not to be ostracized," he said as he too began walking, followed by Asuma. What if Naruto became Ulquiorra after the leaf betrayed him? End here, and thanks for watching my video till the end.